Good morning. Honorable board members, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mira Al-Dhahri and I have the pleasure to be your MC today. Welcome to the seminar of David Avrin, hosted by Agthia. We thank you all for your participation, and to start today's event, I have the honor of calling to stage Agthia Chief Executive Officer, Engineer Tariq Al-Wahidi.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Dear guests, Your Excellencies, thank you so much for coming here today. We are honored to have the guests that come to our second annual knowledge sharing event that we do. Last year, for those of you who attended with us, it was a very good, successful event. We're looking forward to our speaker today, Mr. David Avrin, who will be speaking with us today to a very interesting topic that we're going to go through it. Mr. David will be introduced now by Mubarak, inshallah, the next step, but just a small brief. He's a marketeer. He's a lead. He's a CEO group leader in Vistage International company. I think it's a committee group of CEOs that's available, and I think we'll be briefed afterwards of what they're doing. But the topic is quite interesting, and it coincides with a book that I was reading yesterday. It's called Practically Radical, and the book talks about how to reinvent the business. In today's situation, we all see things are changing quite a bit. And it takes somebody to come and think about the basics. You need to go to the fundamentals and go back to the basics and assess where is your USP, where is your strength, where is the point that distinguish you among the rest of the competition. I think this is what really matters here today, is for us as thinkers and leaders that are joining here today to listen about insights that's happening around us in the world, and to inspire us so that we can take it back to our businesses, to our divisions, to our colleagues, to our groups, and be able to share those thoughts. These inspirational thoughts, I remember last year, the one-day event that we had, the effect of it stayed with us the whole year. The whole year we were just trying to think about things that we heard. Okay, Marshall said this, Marshall said that, etc. So hopefully this time we will be capturing some jewels from you that you'll be able to use throughout the rest of our year. Of course, today, the topic, the speech is going to be about revitalizing business, and another important topic is the customer service enhancements and customer service points. And these are very important topics that we would like to touch upon, because they coincide with something that's quite interesting, which is the year of tolerance. That's been announced this year. And this goes back to competition, and how do you deal with competition, and how you work out with competition. Of course, you can be a fierce competitor, but in a very tolerant way. And this is something that we are trying to learn, in our way as well. Having said that, talking about revitalizing business is something that I would like to point out to is our announcement that was happening last week in Gulf Food, where we have announced to the world our latest innovation of products that we came up with. It was very well received, and this is also part of revitalizing our business as well. We also announced to the world our sustainability statement as well, which is the commitment for the next 5 years, what we are planning to do for the sustainability of the environment. And this is something that we are quite proud of. We are among the first companies in the region to commit to using recycled material in our plastic bottles. 5% of this will be plant-based, and this is what we are committed to doing. Lots of research, lots of R&D, working with universities and technology houses, to be able to establish this, but we are quite excited as well. Without further ado, I don't want to take the spotlight to something else, But I wanted to enjoy today, embrace it, and gain the knowledge from this. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We are now asking our Senior Vice President, Human Capital and Corporate Service, Mubarak Al-Mansouri, to join us on stage.
Assalamu alaikum, sabah al-khair. Your Excellencies, honorable guests, colleagues. It's our pleasure to host you all in our inspirational event, which will cover the topic of reinventing business vitality, by our world speaker and thought leader, Mr. David Avrin. David is a former marketing firm owner and CEO group leader with Vistage International, the world's largest chief executive member organization. David's business insights have been featured on hundreds of broadcast media outlets and thousands of online and print publications around the world. He is also the author of 3 books, including the acclaimed "It is not who you know, it is who knows you." The first session will cover marketing and branding. On this interactive and very informative session, David will demonstrate for you the danger of a comfort zone and show how other best in category companies are staying relevant, re-energizing their messaging and reinventing themselves to prepare for a new opportunity. The next session will cover customer experience, which is again a highly interactive and informative session. Being a customer experience expert, David Avrin will demonstrate the profound changes that have occurred over the past decades and explain how that has reshaped buyer demands and expectations. Please engage and interact with David and enjoy this unique opportunity. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Mr. David Avrin.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Good morning, Excellencies, honored guests. Thank you so much for having me here. It is a great pleasure to be here. I travel all the way from Denver, Colorado in America, so I'm very sleepy. So in my brain, it's about 9 o'clock at night or something, I think, as my children are going to bed. I will tell you, I will apologize at the beginning because I've been fighting a little bit of a cough. So occasionally, I have to take a breath just to get my lungs okay. I'll look like I'm getting very emotional, but I'm just calming down my lungs. So don't worry about me, we'll get through this just fine. Excuse me. As I showed up yesterday, not only did one of my pieces of luggage not make it, and it's still not here. I think it's still in Germany, so hopefully it'll make it eventually here. But I also recognized that I was missing some of my medicine. So I have an inhaler that I use for my asthma, just a little bit for my lungs, and that had not arrived. So I was talking to Rinkesh, who is my agent here, works with Right Selection here in the Middle East and in the region, and I said, I don't know if I need a prescription. So we're here at the hotel, and he says, well, let's just talk to concierge. So I talked to the concierge here at the Four Seasons, an amazing hotel, and I said, I need an inhaler, but I don't know if I need a prescription. And she says, of course. Her answer was, my pleasure. You know, we'll be happy to go get that for you. I don't think you need it. Please write down the prescription. She says, how many would you like? I said, I would like 2. And she says, okay, we'll make that happen. I said, really? So Rinkesh and I go and sit down in the lobby here. Less than 10 minutes later, she comes walking up with the bag. Here you are, sir. I said, seriously? And she said, yes, absolutely, it's my pleasure. She went and got my medicine. Less than 10 minutes, I had 2. And everything that she demonstrated is part of what we're going to talk about today. How do you become that organization that is responsive, that is individualized, that is sensitive to your needs? We're going to talk today throughout the time that we have, we'll take a couple of breaks between now and 2 o'clock about how do we become that organization that people want to work for and partner with and invest in and buy from. How do we look at becoming a customer-centric organization? Now, I know we have the Agthia folks here, but we also have partners and other honored guests. So we're going to make sure that what we talk about covers everybody. But there's been some dramatic shifts in the marketplace of how we differentiate. The expectations of our customers have changed significantly. We're going to talk about why. But how do we become that organization? Not just an effective organization, not just strong supply chain and strong products, but better than others who do what we do. We're looking at growth. We can talk about making that transition from the product-centric organization to a customer-centric organization. We're seeing this with organizations across the world right now. Let me start off, tell you a quick story. So I walk into an electronics store, and I'm looking for a new camera. In my office, I have a white screen set up in my office, and I record some videos on customer experience and marketing. You can find some of those on YouTube and others. But I've been using my iPhone for most of my videos. And it's okay, but I wanted to be able to make some more adjustments. I wanted a little bit more professional. So I go to an electronics store looking for an expensive, a high-end camera. And I go to the back of the store and I look at different models, and I finally find the exact one that I'm looking for. I can do an external microphone. I can overexpose it a little bit. Very, very professional. I found the exact camera. Here's my question for you. Did I buy that camera right then and there? Hey, can we make it easier or better or faster or more personalized? The opportunities for growth, I think, are in the customer journey. How we understand them better. Let me talk to you about a shift that's occurred in the marketplace over certainly the last 10 years. And it's not the shift from agricultural to industrial. It's not the shift from analog to digital, very profound. But a remarkable shift from selling to buying. And here's what I mean. Yesteryear, most of recorded history has been the age of the salesperson. We relied on salespeople to educate us about products and services and features and benefits. I'm not suggesting, for those sales professionals in the room, that sales is unimportant. It's very important. It's just different. It used to be about basic education. The salespeople knew more than we did, so we needed them to explain it to us. And we struggled because we were hearing from different salespeople, everybody telling us that they're the best. Well, how much of that work can we do ourselves now? How much research can we do on our phone? When we were young and we didn't know how to spell a word, we'd say, "Mom, how do you spell this word?" And she would say, "Look it up in the dictionary." We don't need to do it. Now we say, "Alexa, how do you spell Abu Dhabi?" Abu Dhabi, A-B-U-D-H, right? How much research can we do? We would go back to ancient times. It's always been about salespeople. Even here in the Middle East, you think about the open-air markets, the old bazaars, people shouting to get people's attention, to show them their wares. You see this depicted in the movies. Of course, in the movies, there's always a fire breather or something. I have no idea if that was true, but in the movies, Western movies, there's fire breathers. But it was about sales. It was about shouting. It was about getting somebody's attention. We go back in the 1940s, 1950s. We would have appliance stores, right? Refrigerators and ovens. And some salesperson or some teenager would be explaining us how this oven works. Or for those of us old enough to remember when stereos were the size of a piece of furniture, right? We used to go into a car dealership, much as we do today, but it was different very recently. We'd walk into a car dealership and we'd see some great cars across the showroom floor. We'd walk around, we'd find one that we like, we'd get inside, play with the steering wheel. But then we'd motion the salesperson who's kind of hovering nearby and we'd say, "So, tell us about this car." We don't do that anymore. We walk in that dealership, we know everything about that car if we wanted to, right? We know the features and benefits, we know the trim packages available, the financing options, we probably know the comparable models from other dealers. We probably know, excuse me, we probably know what the dealer paid for that car before we walk in that door, right? And we're not going to pay a penny more. We used to walk into a doctor's office and we'd say, doctor, here's what I'm feeling. This is what hurts. Tell me what's wrong with me. Now, too often we walk in and we say, okay, here's what's wrong with me. Here's the medicine that I want. Because we self-diagnosed online, or we watched a TV commercial for a medication. We have somebody, a spouse sitting in the waiting room going, don't leave without antibiotics. They're going to say no, but you just push, they'll say yes. The marketplace has become a grocery store. Think about it. We walk down the aisles of the grocery store and we buy things. Nobody's there to sell it to us. Go to big box, right? Do you have Costco or Sam's Club? Some big stores. More items than has ever been available in the history of history. And in most cases, nobody is there to sell it to you. We go and we buy things. Now let's add the internet and multiply it by 1 million. We are in an amazing time. I don't know that from a consumer perspective there's any real needs. I mean, clearly there's poverty, but every need, there's something. There's multiple options for everything. We've never seen this before in human history. And in most cases, most of those choices are great choices. And especially when we deal with commodity food products. Look at those shelves. Look at the fight for shelf space. So many choices. The question is not what makes you a good choice. My question for you today is, what makes you a better choice than the other good choices? How do we grow our business when everyone's good? And we can do it a couple of ways. We can do it on the product side, clearly through innovation, through being very smart with our distribution channels, our manufacturing, keeping our prices low, being very price competitive, continuing to innovate. But we can also do it on the customer side. We can win by understanding our customers better, our marketing messages, looking at how do we influence those buying decisions. Now, none of that is anything that you don't already know. But we're going to talk about some new thinking around that. Because once again, the world has changed. Our expectations of how fast we get what we get has changed. We used to want things quickly, now we expect them quickly. This is what we hear on TV every day.
Get the car without the car salesman. Carvana.com, the better way to buy a car.
Order online, save money and time. Sleepyhead, the easy-peasy mattress.
Introducing Amazon Fresh Pickup, your fast and easy way to pick up your groceries. And it's free.
Redfin, the modern way to buy or sell a home.
With Stitch Fix, I never have to shop for clothes again.
Imagine a doctor visit complete with a necessary prescription, all without ever leaving your home. With Doctor on Demand, you can see a board-certified doctor instantly from the comfort of your own home.
Getting ready for a big night out just got easier. Priv lets you get the treatments you need without leaving your home.
1. Figuring out when you can take time off work for your appointment. Or 2. Taking a vision test from the comfort of home. The choice is clear. Introducing 1-800-CONTACT's online prescription service. The easy-to-use online vision test you can take without leaving your home or scheduling an appointment. All you need is a computer and a smartphone.
Even things you thought you would never, there's certain things that we can get delivered, but we're still going to have to go to the doctor. No, we're not. I travel pretty extensively, and so I have teledoc on. If I'm ever not feeling well, I just call. Sometimes they want me to take a picture, like if you have a rash on your, just take a picture of it, and they diagnose it. I do a lot of work with dentistry and dentists and others. There's literally, you can send away, and there's something called Smile Direct Club that they have in America, and they do the molds yourself at home. You don't even need to see a dentist or a doctor. They're petrified. They're so scared of what's happening to their industry. Now, why do I show you all these examples? Even if it doesn't apply specifically towards agriculture or building products or the other things that we do and the subsidiaries here in the room. Because we're all consumers as well. And this is changing our expectation of how we live our lives. Even if it doesn't directly result or impact the exact way that you buy, it impacts the expectations of your customers. How are they going to want to do business with us next year and in the year after? What are the things that are going to resonate with them when they perceive everybody as being good? Because here's the challenge. We talk about about our quality and our commitment and our caring and our trust and our people, and we think that's our differentiator. I hear CEOs, I hear people, leaders of organizations stand in front of their companies every day around the world and they say, listen, folks, at the end of the day, it's about quality. And I disagree. At the beginning of the day, it's about quality. Quality is the entry fee. You better be good at what you do. At the end of the day, it's about competitive advantage. Not what do you do differently? The world has changed. We expect to be able to just select the things that we want. And many of the products that we do, at least on the consumer side, we are selecting. But many of your jobs is not selling directly to consumers, is it? We're selling to buyers, we're selling to others who have choices. And those people are people with opinions and feelings and pressures. Do we just understand them from a demographic perspective, from a job title perspective? My target is the buyer for this particular industry, but who is that person? What are the challenges they have? Who's over them? What decisions are being questioned? Everything about how we do our business is changing. Who has Alexa? Some version. Hand up if you have Alexa in your house. Just a very few people. How many people have, anybody have more than one? Everybody familiar with what Alexa is? Yes, connected to Amazon. It's like the Google Home Assistant. You can ask her questions. I have 7. There's something seriously wrong with me. In every room in the house, because I can ask questions. Alexa, set a timer for 20 minutes. 20 minutes, starting now. Alexa, how many liters, and I'm doing a recipe. If my kids are fighting over the television, over what program, I'm Alexa, flip a coin. Heads. Okay, you got to watch your show, you're later. And even if I feel lonely, I'm just like, Alexa, I like you. Oh, I like you too. And my wife says, she's flirting with you. I'm like, yes, and? But the things that we can ask that we used to have to go check with someone else, our expectations in terms of immediate answers have changed. So from a marketing perspective, the basic issues of quality or commitment or caring or trust, the things that we've talked about for decades, what makes us different? It's the quality. Well, you know what, but your competitors have quality as well. Because once again, today I'm going to play the part of your customer. I'm the consumer. I'm hearing positive things from everyone. Most are fairly easy to do business with. So why you? On the marketing side, it's the messaging. Can we dig deeper into something that is meaningful and effective and not just what we call competency-based claims? Your competitive advantage is not what you're good at. It's something about us and less about you because we have that expectation. So today more than ever, it's about the brand. Now, we've talked brands for a long time. There's a sophisticated company and the partners and others and honored guests in the room. You understand brand, right? Your brand is your reputation. Your brand is what other people think you are based on everything that you've done. See, how do we put this? To be well known in the marketplace, you have to be well known for something. Beyond your quality and commitment and caring and trust, what are you known for? What do you do different or better or faster? Or you've done it longer, or others as well. So there's a great line that says in sales, and we're all in sales, there is no prize for second place. You make the sale or you don't. You get the gig or you don't. In sales, second place is the first loser. Not a judgment call. First place eats. Second place watches them eat. So at that point of contact, whether it's online or in store or the buyer that you're dealing with, how do we be that better choice than the other good choices? So imagine you have sort of this floating ball in front of your face. We're going to look at your brand, different companies, different subsidiaries here in the room. Imagine you have a floating ball in front of your face. This is your brand. This is your company. But we're going to look at it from an outside perspective. How does the marketplace see you? It's your reputation. It's your longevity. How long have you been here? What is the innovation? What are all the things that if I lived here in the UAE, or for those who are watching and live streaming right now, in Turkey, in Egypt, in Saudi Arabia, what would my impression be? Because I don't have the knowledge of your strategic plan. I just know what I know from an outside perspective. Your brand today is what it is. You've earned it. If you're familiar with the concept of leading and lagging indicators in business, your brand today is a lagging indicator. It is the report card. Everything that's happened up until this Sunday morning has contributed to the reputation that you've earned. Different products, we can look at it differently for each product, each subsidiary company. Your brand today is what it is. Your reputation is what it is. We have no more effect on it. We've earned it. It is what it is today. What I want to talk about in the time we have today is, what do you aspire to? Today is about your aspirational brand. 2 years from now, 5 years from now, we are going to be the leading authority in the marketplace for X. We're going to be the go-to resource for companies, individuals, consumers looking for Y. Top of mind, the best choice for Z. Let's take that aspirational brand, and we're going to put that one up here. So that's where we're going. That's what's next. So when I point over there, that's what's next. Here's where we are today. That's where you're going. What's missing in this gap? Because when we have clarity of where we're going, right, we chart a path to get there. Then every decision you make in your organization, every strategic initiative you embark upon, geographic expansion, line extension, new product development, we measure against that. If that's who we want to be, every idea that you have in your company, we ask the question, say, it's a great idea. Is that going to get us closer to that? We've all decided that's where we're going to go. Is that going to get us there faster, or is it a distraction? In other words, for the leaders in this room, think about it. Do you have a clear criteria in your business for what you say no to in your team? Does everybody know why we say no? We have no shortage of great ideas. We have great ideas. We have a shortage of resources and time to implement everything. So what's our criteria? We heard your CEO and others talk about sustainability and new innovations. What's that goal? And the things that you're talking about, the things that we're working on to remain competitive, to maintain market share, to grow market share globally as well, with aspirations for global reach. We have the infrastructure. What's the criteria? Does everybody know where that North Star is? Because once again, when we're clear, everything we do, we measure against, measure against that. So I want to talk to you about the idea of transformation, of evolution from a product-centric organization to a customer-centric. And we're seeing this mindset around the world right now, because I think that's where the growth opportunities lie. If you look here, the whole area is the marketing space. The product-centric organization says, let's take a product, a single product, and think, how many people can we sell it to? Absolutely legitimate model. This is market share. But the customer-centric organization says, let's take a single customer and say, how many needs can we meet? How many products can we deliver to that individual? And they're not mutually exclusive. You notice they're not going in opposite directions. We always want in that graph to go up and to the right. The bottom axis is the amount of customers reached, and the top one is the amount of customers satisfied. We understand market share. I have nothing to offer you in terms of your logistics and your finance and your manufacturing and your vertical integration. It's not what I do. It's what you do, and it's what you do well. But as we look at growing, especially in the face of competition, major multinational players who are also very good at the supply chain, but you can even along product-centric, you can even put marketing messages in there. Our expertise is in our product. Our expertise is in what we do. We're good at this. The growth opportunities is developing expertise in your customers. When you talk about customer share, it's not just share of their wallet. It's what's your share of their life. How many needs can you meet from those individuals? Both legitimate models. We're very good at the product side. Companies are getting much better. The analytics, the big data, delving deeper into understanding their customers better. A product-centric company, once again, looks at one product and says, how many can we sell? And the customer-centric, how many needs can we meet? Look at the financial model. Is look at that one product and how much revenue can we generate from that product. And on the customer side, it's once again, we look at the lifestyle. Because here's the difference between the customer and the product. The customer has a memory. And those memories of those transactions, of those interactions, determine whether or not they want to do another one and whether or not they refer. And the other advantage of the customer, of course, is they have a lifespan. Product sales are episodic. Now, of course, we're hoping they're reoccurring, but the growth opportunities, where I think we have an opportunity to create competitive advantage over even bigger players, behemoth players in the marketplace, is becoming more customer-centric, understanding them deeply. Now, understand we do, but we understand them from a demographic perspective. We know who we're selling to. We know broad swaths of demographics. But when we understand who they are, what their motivations are, and there's ways of doing it. We're going to talk about that today. But first, let's talk marketing. How do we influence them when they aren't necessarily cynical, but they're certainly complacent. They're certainly lackadaisical. You go to the grocery store, there's so many different choices. I know not everybody in the audience is dealing with that specifically, but sometimes the easiest choice, we talk about the challenge, let me put it this way. We talk about the challenge of customer acquisition. How do we acquire new customers? I don't think it's your challenge, because most of our prospects are getting their needs met somehow by somebody. They're already buying something. If you're selling cables, if you're selling construction materials, they're not floundering around looking for a vendor. They're working with somebody, likely, right? The challenge isn't customer acquisition. Your challenge is customer conversion. That's hard. You have to convince them to stop doing business the way they're currently doing business and start doing business with you. And essentially, you're asking them to break up with their current vendor. That's hard. You better have a really good justification. From a marketing message perspective, telling me that you provide great quality is not sufficient. It's not enough. Because that person's going to fight to keep that market share. They're going to fight to keep that customer. They're going to, why? Wait, you're leaving us? Well, they're giving us 2 cents. I'll give you the same 2 cents, right? Basic marketing messages, competency-based marketing messages aren't sufficient. We've got to dig deeper. First part, we're going to talk about marketing, and then we're going to talk about behaviors and customer experience as part of that. There's 5 basic themes that we're going to talk about that typify, that personify the changing expectations and what really illustrates what a successful company will be in the next several years. The ones who are good at this, these are the changes in terms of expectations. Those who are good at this have a great chance of future-proofing their organization. Once again, it's not about just being good at what you do. That's the entry fee. First one is immediacy. We used to want it, now we expect it. Immediacy, we're going to talk deeper about this a little bit later, but I'll do a quick overview. Immediacy means we want what we want and we want it now. Any of you notice that your customers and prospects are getting a little more impatient than they used to be? Right? They want it now, they want it yesterday. As I was putting this together and making some great modifications, some conversations with Mubarak and with Tufik as well, I just went on Global Marketplace. I went Fiverr.com or Upwork, and I got graphics done in 2 hours for somewhere else in the world. The journey that I made here to Abu Dhabi 100 years ago would take 6 months. It took me a day and a half. Our expectations in terms of immediacy, answers quickly, talking to a real person immediately, has changed. The second one is humanity. We master this, we give ourselves a great competitive advantage, and it may not be what you think I'm talking about. This isn't about being a socially responsible organization. The wholehearted approach of Agthia, the connection to the year of tolerance, it's magical, it's wonderful. Humanity as it pertains to us, though, as your customers. The recognition that not every scenario that you have planned for, the business model and structure that you have created, the business processes and supply chain, doesn't accommodate every potential scenario that I might have as a customer. Are you positioned and equipped and trained to be flexible for your customers? When they have special requests, are you able to accommodate? When you can, because it'll make a big difference. Next one is individuality. Individuality basically says it's about self-expression. People want to design the experience the way they want. They want to buy the way they want. They want an a la carte basis. They don't want to be told this is the way it has to be done, because if somebody else can make it easier or more facilitated, then they will. My son doesn't want to go to the store and buy shoes. He wants to go online and design them. I want this color on this side. Once again, it's the changing mindset. Here's the next one, consistency. We can create a great process within our organization, but somebody has to be in charge to make sure it happens. There's a lot of customer service speakers who will talk about creating wow moments. I'm not a big believer in wow moments. Wow moments are wonderful. But what if I'm not the guy who got the wow moment? So they tell this wonderful story. Well, he had a great experience. They're not doing that for me. Consistency means, how do we do what we do for every customer every time? What do they come to expect? And the last one is being so good at what you do that it actually causes people to talk about you to someone else. Meeting expectations, once again, is the entry fee. Meeting expectations says we're doing exactly what we're supposed to do, and we may satisfy a customer, but we leave ourselves susceptible to somebody else who's going to thrill our customers. One of the first exercises in the workbook, and we're not going to get to all of them, but I'm going to offer it to all of you, is about wooing our customers. What do we do to court our new customers? And the question is, do we keep doing it? Do we have longtime customers and clients that we've worked with for years that we've stopped trying really hard for because they know us, we work with us? You are vulnerable to a competitor who wants to romance them, and then they get lured away. Promotability means doing what you do so well all the time for everyone that they actually talk about. You know, I go back to the first story that I told when I first started about needing an inhaler, the medicine. And in a 10-minute period, the concierge staff here at the Four Seasons, of course, we expect that of the Four Seasons and the Ritz-Carlton, but that's their brand, isn't it? I got everything yesterday morning in less than 10 minutes. Immediacy. They immediately were there, heard what I wanted, were able to make the call, would be able to get me what I wanted immediately. The humanity, understand that I had a need, I had a medical need, and they snapped to it quickly. They made me feel important. They made me feel heard. They did exactly what I want, that individuality. They respected that I had a unique need, something customized for me, consistency. You know what? Would I expect that Four Seasons would do this in Paris or Hong Kong or New York? Absolutely. They don't say yes. You know what they say? It would be my pleasure. And promotability, well, I'm talking to you, aren't I? In 10 minutes, they personified everything that makes an outstanding organization. Now understand, for what you do, you don't have to be a luxury brand to personify all of these things, but we're going to talk more about how we do this as we go on. All right, good news and bad news. Here's the good news. The good news is there's a lot of ways to do this right. There's a lot of ways to stand out and stand apart in a competitive marketplace. There's a couple of ways we fall short. If you want to fall short, at the most basic level, just underperform, right? For the purposes of today's presentation, we're going to assume everybody in the room is really good at what you do. This isn't welcome to clever marketing to mask deficiencies in your operation. It's not what we're doing here today. In America, we call that putting lipstick on a pig. We assume everybody's good. The way we fall short, though, is that we're a little bit complacent from a marketing perspective. We're complacent in terms of the words we use to describe what we do. We use what I call competency-based claims that are about us, right? Our quality. We talk about our commitment. All of those things are very important, but they're less effective in terms of marketing. There's a great exercise that I work with organizations, and I say, take a yellow highlighter in one hand and a green highlighter in the other hand. Look at all your promotional materials, all of your marketing materials. Everything that you say about yourself and your products and what they do and their features and their benefits and our leadership team and what we do, highlight all of that in yellow. And then everything you say about your customers and their needs and the benefits that they get and all of that, you highlight that in green. And there's always more yellow than green because we like to talk about ourselves. The best marketing is where we talk about them and the outcomes and their problems so they self-identify. As you have a review of your marketing materials and look at it from that perspective, we're talking about them. Product-centric organizations are very good. They have expertise, I'm fine, thank you. Expertise in their products, in their process, and what they do. Absolutely legitimate model. But the growth is going to come with being better at messages that resonate with them as well. Let me go back one, sorry. That's good news, a lot of ways to do it, right? Here's the bad news. The bad news is what we've talked about. The bad news is what you face every day. The bad news is for the first time in history, everybody's good. We've literally never seen a dynamic in business worldwide with so many quality players. It doesn't mean that there aren't lesser players in the marketplace. Honestly, the marketplace will out them. They will figure it out. The internet outs underperformers. We see review sites around the world, Yelp and TripAdvisor and Rotten Tomatoes and Glassdoor, what we call social proof. And there's a huge trend towards social proof, which is getting people to talk about you, but they're absolutely going to talk about you in a negative way. Part of what we're going to talk about after the break is fixing those things that might cause people to go online and talk about you or rant about you. Bad news, everybody's good, because if they weren't, we would figure it out pretty quickly. The internet outs underperformers. The other thing is coming out of the financial downturn, and of course it affected worldwide 8-9 years ago, many of the lesser players were weeded out of the marketplace. They just didn't survive. Those who made strategic acquisitions, smart with cash, they emerged into a different market following the recession. The weaker players were gone. More consolidation and attrition and acquisition. Here's the new normal. You hear people talking about the new normal. The new normal is a marketplace populated by great companies. And the worst part about some of your competitors in the marketplace, the worst part is that most of them are very, very nice people. Wouldn't we love to hate them? The reality is they're good people. They would be our friends if they aren't already, if they weren't competitors. I hear leaders and organizations around the world say, you know what makes us different? We actually do what we say we're going to do. And I'm like, really? Do you really believe that? Do you really believe that your competitors are consistently underperforming or they're not doing what they say they're going to do? They all do. They're all good, and they're good people. So that's the bad news. So the question, of course, is how do we create that compelling brand argument, marketing messages across varying divisions that transcend commodity? And transcending commodity is saying more than we start with the freshest ingredients. I'm going to challenge you on this because you know what your competitors do? They start with the freshest ingredients. You're serving food. There are standards that everyone has to reach, but for generations, we have started, especially those who are in food, and even in agriculture and others as well. We talk about competency. It's freshness. It's those things that were effective maybe 20 years ago. They're less effective today. I think we can do better. The morning part here is about those marketing messages, how we do it better. My colleague Seth Godin wrote a great book called Purple Cow, if anybody read the book Purple Cow. And he talks about transcending commodity. And commodity is in the mind of the consumers. We grew up in a time where we thought we can't, first of all, if somebody told us 30 years ago we were going to bottle and sell water, they would think we're insane. It's a basic thing. Now, of course, it's a major revenue source. It's a major product that we all need every day. Eggs, milk, water. We've done amazing things in helping to brand them, whether we're infusing them with vitamin D, whether we are fusing eggs with omega. We're finding ways to transcend commodity and not just be a basic staple that everybody can do. The innovation is happening. My colleague Seth Godin wrote a great book called Purple Cow, and he talks about a purple cow is remarkable in the sense that it's worthy of being remarked about. My question for you is, what are you doing in your business that would actually get somebody to talk about you to someone else? How do we describe that? How do we bring that to the surface? There's a lot of talk internally. I love the website. I love the philosophy, the wholehearted. My question is, how do your customers see that? And would they know, or their behaviors or their messaging, to let us know this wonderful inclusive culture that exists with Agthia? And I know I talk about them. They're the host here today, so we'll spend most of our time there. What is it that you're doing, excuse me, that would get somebody to talk about you? Highlighting the unique aspects of what you do. So, when we're looking at transcending commodity, part of what we can do is look at our organization, every point of contact from the perspective of our customer. Is there something unique? And honestly, if you struggle to find something unique, for those who are in raw materials and others, sometimes we can have some strategic conversations with our team to create something unique that doesn't exist. Maybe we find a point of dissatisfaction that we can enhance to give us talking points. I'll give you an example. So part of the Hilton chain around the world, they have multiple subsidiaries of Hilton. There's Embassy Suites and Doubletree Hotels and others. But there's one called Hampton Inn. Lower level, basic hotel room. And they're having that strategic conversation with their team. And they're saying, listen, we are a clean, comfortable room. Sure, plenty of clean, comfortable rooms. What can we do differently? So they found a point of contact, because in America there's been a lot of news reports about cleanliness in hotel rooms. And what they came to recognize, because they did these reports with a little purple light in the room, and they realized that they weren't washing the bed covering, the duvet cover in the rooms. They're washing the sheets, they're washing the towels, but they weren't washing the top. And people are realizing that the hotel rooms are dirty. So they decided at Hampton Inn that they were going to clean the duvet cover in every bed, every room, every time. And so there's a little note on the bed, and it reminds you that the duvet covers, they created competitive advantage where it didn't exist. In a commodity marketplace, they sat with their team and they say, what can we do differently? Now, not every idea makes sense financially. There's clearly a cost to that. It's a major item that they have to wash every day. They're hardworking housekeepers in the room. Maybe instead of 15 or 16 rooms a day, maybe they can only clean 15 rooms. Maybe their costs go up 8 or 9% in terms of their laundry. But if they become a better choice than the other good choices, for those where cleanliness is a priority, they can tip the scales. They go from 84% occupancy to 86% occupancy, and they make tens of millions of dollars, and they create competitive advantage. I tell you this because if you take an honest step back and look at your business, are you significantly better? The things that you claim in your marketing, are they resonating? Are they meaningful? Or are they just merely descriptive of what you do? Could you take your marketing messages and apply them to your competitors? Would I know the difference? If I took the verbiage from your website describing your products or your services or your commodities, and if I took that text and I replaced it on your competitor's website, would it apply to them as well? And if it does, you're missing an opportunity. There's a mistaken belief. There's a school of thought that says there's a mistaken belief that everybody's looking to make the best decision possible. Purchasing, hiring, contracting. And the reality is, most people are looking to avoid making a bad decision. We just don't want to mess it up. Especially if we're making a big purchase. We will opt for a safe purchase rather than a cheaper, great purchase. If I'm building a 23-story tower, and I'm hiring a general contractor, I can either hire one that says, we built a third of the skyline, we've been around for 50 years, or that younger, newer, innovative person who's done 2. I have so much money on the line, I'm going to go for the safer choice. Part of being that safer choice is positioning yourself as a specialist. Even for a specific product, even a particular division, this is what we do. If you have major players in your space, from a marketing perspective, how do we message this to become a better choice? How does anybody compete when there's major players? Now, I know certainly Agthia has market dominance in the UAE, delving into other countries, but as you go global, you're going to face others who have that dominance. Are you a solution looking for a problem? You're sophisticated. We don't enter markets unless there's an opportunity. And the opportunity comes when major players are positioned as generalists. Our marketing messages, this is what we do. One of the sales strategies I like is, because I'm a big believer, we never denigrate competitors. We never criticize competitors publicly. Never. I love to compliment competitors. But the strategy is just don't compliment what your prospect needs. List 5 or 6 things that major competitor does really, really well that you know your prospect doesn't need. Like, these guys are amazing, right? Coca-Cola's coming in the marketplace. They're phenomenal if you need this and this and this and this and this and this and this. But this is what we do. And we do it really well. And if you're prospecting correctly, then the response is, well, that's what I need. Right? They're phenomenal, but they do all of these things. We specialize in this. We've invested in manufacturing and supply chain and technology and innovation to deliver this better than anyone else. How does any smaller player compete? Well, you do it this way, by being a better choice for that segment and messaging along with that. Comes down to this, the 4 most dangerous words in business. Ready? Four most dangerous words in business are all things being equal. All things being equal, we actually doing better than I thought, so we're good. All things being equal, when everything's equal in the minds of your prospects, we shop based on what? This is price. Price or proximity. Whoever's the cheapest, whoever's the closest. Who aspires to be the low price leader in your category? No, it doesn't mean that we don't have to be price competitive. Of course we do. But when everything is equal in the minds of your prospects, it is about price. And for those of you who are frustrated that your prospects are hammering you on price, it's because they don't perceive a significant difference between you and your competitors. When they don't see a difference, they're hammering you on price. And if they don't see a difference, whose fault is that? It's yours. But it's also your opportunity. It just means the marketing messages that we're delivering aren't resonating as anything other than descriptive. We've got to dig deeper. So what are the words that work? You've heard this before, the marketing is not a department. Not to suggest you don't have a marketing department. It's the recognition and realization that marketing happens at every level of your organization, every conversation, every time. Are we on the same page in terms of what makes us different and special and better? If I was going to take everybody in this room and put you in a different room and ask you the same 3 or 4 questions about your differentiator, what makes you special, what's your best quality, what's the most persuasive thing, am I going to hear different answers from everybody? In most organizations, the answer is yes. It doesn't mean that we have a script, but it does mean we have to put our heads together and have hard conversations, acknowledging the quality of our competitors, and talk about what is meaningful to our audiences. And our audiences, of course, aren't just consumers. Our audience is anybody who buys what you're selling. Who do you have to call on for those of you in sales? And we're all in sales to an extent, but there's people, specific sales professionals in this room. If you're complaining that you're having a hard time beating others on price, it's because you aren't equipped with more persuasive language. It doesn't mean that strong arguments can replace price competitiveness. The organization's responsibility is to be price competitive. Your responsibility is to be persuasive, not just informative. The traditional marketing messages from yesteryear no longer apply. They're thrown in a bucket, all of a sudden you're the same, others are saying it as well. What are the words you use to describe what you do? Because words have meaning, words can be powerful, and they can be pedestrian. They can be persuasive, and they can be forgettable. Question is, what are the words you're using? Because here's what we hear, and I get this around the world. It's a plague of blah, 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 yada, 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 whatever cultural words that you use. As I go around the world and I ask leaders, and most of my audiences are CEOs and other leaders, and I say, why you? The number one answer I get in the world, at the end of the day, it's really about the people. And I say, really? Don't those people bear a striking resemblance to the people who work at your competitors? Stop pretending it's about your people. It's not. I don't want to insult anybody in the room. Your people are not your competitive advantage. As a consumer, I don't see any difference. They weren't raised on a special customer service island. Big open air ninja courtyards of customer service training. And at 21 years old, you are now ready to go. So go. Spread your great. Not about your people. All right, here's the truth. This Tufik's about to kill me. Of course it's about your people. We just can't say it out loud. Hire great people. Hire slowly. Reward great behavior. Hold people accountable. They will retain your best customers. But as a marketing message, it doesn't work. It's just something we have to do. We have to have great people. We have to develop our people. I love the idea of the year of tolerance. I love the idea of tapping into the brilliance of all the people. The real gift in your organization, the greatest asset you have is your people. And the ideas and the greatest waste is those people who might be marginalized and not valued because their opinions aren't being heard. Think about how many great ideas we can have. Your people are crucial. It just doesn't work in your marketing. Don't tell me that your people care more, because I don't believe it, even if they do. See what it's like to do business with people who love what they do. As a consumer, it doesn't resonate. It's an internal process. It's crucial for Mubarak and others internally, but it doesn't work for marketing, not as a claim. We get this one a lot: honesty, integrity, and trust. At First National Bank, right? We hear, right? You're telling me that you're not going to cheat me. That's your marketing message. You're like telling me, and I lead strategic planning retreats, and they're saying we have to make a statement. It doesn't make a statement. It's important, it's crucial, but it doesn't work in marketing. But it used to. We get this a lot. Do your customers come first? I don't even know what this means. Before what? Before lunch? Before profit? It's not an effective claim anymore. This one we get a lot. I saw there's a marketing firm that does a list every year online. Top 10 least effective marketing words. Most overused and least effective words. And the number one word for the last 2 years is passion, as the least effective. Don't tell me how passionate you are. Just be passionate. Your business wouldn't exist. Please don't misunderstand. I'm not saying passion is unimportant. It's very important. It's just not effective in terms of your marketing. And then this one I get this one a lot. I spoke for the $1 Million Roundtable, 10,000 insurance professionals in Bangkok, Thailand. And I said, why? You look around, everybody next to you, everybody's good. You know what makes us different? We really listen to our customers and we tailor our solutions to meet their individual needs. Everybody listens. People, they literally think, I said, did you go to the same conference? Because you all say it. That's what makes us different. People, we listen. Everybody listens. And then, of course, in food service, here's our challenge. You better, you're serving me food. The question is, what is, sorry, I'm just doing a time check here. What is effective? What are the words that work? So there's one of the things that we do is we put our mission statement out front, right? Our mission: exceed expectations, highest quality possible. Understand this is an internal document. This is not meaningful to your customers. This is for you. Whatever that mission statement, I'm a big believer in mission statements and vision statements. Where are we going? How are we going to get there? But that's for you. The outside messages are for them. So here's what I want to do. You're patient with my cough. Thank you for that. So here's what I want to, oh, now I talk loud in the microphone. Okay, so here's what I want to do. We're going to do this for a few minutes, and then we'll take a break and let you walk around a little bit. But I want to do an exercise to help you think about where those advantages lie. How do you say that verbally in a way that's meaningful? No, it's okay. I'll use this. Are we back on? Stop working? What do we just do a battery later on? We'll fix that. Okay. So what I want you to do is I want you to take the workbook that you have, and I want everybody to open it up to the back section. There's just pages of blank notes. All right? So for the notes page, here's what I want to do, is I want to help you create a top 10 list. A list of 10 persuasive, effective statements that if I was your prospect and you were talking to me, if I knew and believed and remembered these 10 things, I would do business with you. This is about not being informative. This is about being persuasive. Don't just tell me and inform me, convince me. So maybe it's something that says, we're the only company that does blank. So imagine you're having a conversation with your chief buyer that you have to convince. Now understand that buyer is also meeting with your competitor or multiple competitors. Maybe that prospect that you're talking to, that buyer of whatever you sell, already has a vendor they've been working with for 20 years. And you're trying to steal them away. You're trying to convince them that you are a better choice than the people they've been working with for years. What would you say to them that might get them to say, that's interesting. Send me a proposal. What might you say to them that they might respond, I didn't realize that. Tell me more. We get caught up in basic marketing messages, talking about ourselves, our quality, and our commitment, and the things I talked about. So what I want you to do is create a list of 10 statements, sentences, and I'm going to give you some ideas of the kinds of things I'm looking for. We'll spend about 10, 15 minutes on this, and then we'll take a break so we have some time. Here's some examples, and I know it's too much on the screen, but I'm going to leave it there for a while. So we look in the upper left. Now it doesn't have to be any of these, but I'm giving you examples of the kinds of things I'm looking for. Imagine you're having a verbal conversation with a prospect. You're trying to sell to them. What is it that's going to make me say, I didn't realize that? I'm very intrigued. That sounds, I love the innovation. My customers would love that. Can you send me a sample? What are you saying that's getting me excited? So the first one is that soul claim. We're the only company. Show supremacy. Tell me something you're doing that nobody else is doing. I love the next one, action verbs. The passive verb, and I know I'm working with English here. The passive verb says, here's what we offer, what we provide, what we manufacture. Tell me what you created. Tell me what you pioneered in the marketplace. Help me recognize what Agthia or the subsidiaries or the honored guests, tell me what you're doing that's innovative, that captures my attention. Break through the clutter and the noise of all of the other ads and the promotions and the salespeople. Resonate with me. This is worth the time. It's worth the thought. We don't have a lot of time for this. Here's a whole bunch of examples. I'm going to be quiet for a couple of minutes, and I'm going to let you work on this. See if you can come up with 10 things in the next 10 minutes. Just 10 things that if I knew and believed and remembered these 10 things, I would do business with you. You have really convinced me. Dig deep. Go. Okay. So as you're doing this, think of the statements like this. For 100 years it's been done this way. We've developed a new proprietary process that does X. Too many people still believe X. Here's what we do well. There's no shortage of companies who offer X, Y. Here's what makes us really special. We know our population suffers from X and Y. We have new infused beverages that allow for this. We have pioneered. Make sense? Don't just inform me, convince me. Intrigue me. See if you can get yourself all the way to 10. Now, for those of you working, I'm going to tell you what we do with this afterwards. This is also a great exercise for you to do with your teams. And what we do after the break, we're going to do this as well. The idea is that you take this back and have this conversation with your team. And you can facilitate this and say, listen, talk to your team. Say, listen, I know what I think makes us great. I want to know what you think makes us great. Not what makes us capable and qualified and competent and a good choice. What do you think makes us a better choice? And listen to them. These are people working on the front line every day. What you get, and I get this in organizations around the world, is you get brilliance in the room. And I'm a big believer that the answers are in the room. There's people who are doing this every day. You'll get somebody say, here's what I say. And the rest of the team goes, that's brilliant. He said, I've been saying that for 5 years. The question is, do you have a process in place to glean some of the best practices, the best messages from your best people and spread them across the organization? You have superstars on your team, superstar salespeople. What are they doing well? What's working for them? What are the claims and the statements that they make that resonate? We need to share that across the organization. So we understand best practices, not just externally and within your industry, but there's best practices within your company. There's people who are very good at this. Not every one of your salespeople is your top salespeople, but those who are, what are they doing well? And we understand there's always sometimes a competitive environment from the sales team, but we're all part of the same team and we all win together. And the opportunities that we look for to leverage different departments, we are greater than the sum of the whole. And some of the great talent and the great experience and messaging from a marketing perspective within the organization needs to be spread. So here's the exercise. Talk to your team and say, listen, I know what I think makes us great. I want to know what you think makes us great. Grab a flip chart and write things down, right? What do you got? What do you come up with? We are the first ones to do whatever. We're the only ones to do this. We were named top innovation at whatever thing, right? And you're writing stuff down. And the rule in facilitation is that you write everything down. You can't edit from the front of the room because then people don't want to share. You could be, yes, you, okay, perfect. I like that, that's great. Do you have another one? Okay, good. Okay, and then how about you? No. Anyone else, right? And they're like, I'm not going to raise my hand. Facilitate this. Get great ideas from your team. The workbook that you have, and we'll talk about this a little bit later on after the break, is with an eye towards having deeper discussions with your team. What are we doing to woo our customers? When do we say no where we might be able to find a way to say yes? The exercises are in there. Before we're done today, I will tell you how to facilitate those. Those are my gift to you so you can have deeper conversations with your team because we get very busy, don't we? We get very busy doing what we do in the day-to-day. This is the day that you have chosen, and I'm honored that you have, to step away to have a deeper conversation. But you have to be able to take it back. Now here's a question in a couple of minutes that we have. Anybody willing to share something on your list that you think makes you stand out, that is one of your competitive advantages? You share something on there? Okay.
I think we have pioneered vitamin D water, and we appeared, or our CEO appeared on the Forbes magazine front cover in terms of media.
Yeah, absolutely.
And in terms of honors, we were selected as Employer of the Year, and in the annual HR Summit,
right,
as well as the one of the top brand or employer branding companies in the GCC region.
Yep, outstanding. Because when we're marketing, right, we're not just marketing for customers, we're also marketing for employees and attracting the best of the best. When it looks for innovation, the vitamin D message, who does that resonate with, right? The resellers and others and the grocery stores, show me something new. They understand they've got competition for the commodity things. What's new, what's different? But it's more than that, there's a story behind it, right? The story behind, of course, is the vitamin D deficiency. It's innovation. It's something, as I like to say, if you want people to talk about you, give them something to talk about. The best marketing, especially the word of mouth marketing, the media appearances as well, what they require is something interesting to talk about. If we can look within our organization, look within our departments, always have our magnifying glass out and our radar on for something different, a success story, somebody else who might tell our story to others as well. Anybody have something they want to share? Help me out, look at this. Everybody looks at me. We'll do this real quick and we'll take a break. You share a few things on there?
Well, thank you.
Okay.
I think the key one that I said is we're the only category that cares about category value, growing categories with our innovation, etc.
Okay. But give me more specific. I mean, it's sort of broad. So imagine you're talking. Who are you selling to?
Perfect. Let's talk about any of the buyers from FMCG, from Horeca, or even retail.
Right.
We increase category value, bringing out MPDs, vitamin D, bromate, zero, etc. Increasing price, bringing more profitability to you as a customer.
Right. Right. So exactly. So what you're talking about, and the other thing is, when you're talking about what you do well, paint the industry as antiquated, as basic. Now this doesn't contradict what I said before. We don't criticize competitors, but you can always indict an industry for underperformance, right? To be honorable, we're not going to talk specifically about a competitor, here's what they do wrong, but we can say, listen, there's dozens of players and they're providing basic. We're not just a vendor, we're a partner. We're not just providing products, we're going to actually help you grow the category. And here's what a partnership with us looks like, right? Which is the conversations you're already having. But understand, there's others who might as well. Look for those things that might be different. The idea is that you come up with your team, have this exercise, encourage them to share, come up with a list of 20 ideas. You're going to be stunned at some great ideas from your team. Come up with a list of 20. Then reduce it down to the best 10 statements that point to your differentiation, your leadership, your innovation, the things that help others, marketing messages that resonate. Come up with a list of 10. And here's where it gets really hard. Reduce it again to the best 5. And you're going to get fights among your team because they're going to say they like this one. And you say, okay, who likes this one? Get some consensus. And I always say, I don't care what you say, but I want to know the things that we're all going to say. Get us on the same page. The most persuasive things that we can say. Come up with a list of 5. If you walk out of here today with 2 or 3, I think you're ahead of the game. Work with your team, come up with 5, agree on them. Make them all conversational. They're not bullets, they're talking points that you weave into every conversation. We know what's the most persuasive things that we do. We need to make sure it enters every conversation every time. When you have those 5, come to agreement on your team. Type it up, shrink it down, laminate it, and stick it to every phone in your company. And the rule is nobody gets off the phone until you've said 3 of those 5 things. every conversation, every time. We're going to educate the marketplace. We're going to decide what are the most effective things, right? I still hear people say, listen, our reputation speaks for itself. You know what that is? That's lazy. You have to speak for yourself. Make this a strategic initiative. Work with your team to come up with the most persuasive marketing sales messages and make sure everybody's saying it every conversation, every time. We begin to educate the marketplace for that. There's a lot I want to talk to you about becoming customer-centric and about how we affect particular behaviors to thrill our customers, and we're going to do that after we take a break. So why don't we look at your clocks right now. Why don't we look at, say we'll do 20 minutes, a chance for you to connect, to talk, come back here in your seats in 20 minutes, and we're going to do a big shift, some really, really interesting content in current thinking in terms of customer experience. Okay? Thank you. Good morning, and we're back. I hope everybody had a nice break. And my understanding is we have about 90 people who are also watching this on live stream as well, so I want to acknowledge you and appreciate you taking the time and watching this on a computer, and I hope you receive value as well. There's an opportunity, and there'll be an opportunity at the end to ask questions. And for those who are watching online, I don't necessarily want to encourage 100 questions. We might make sure we have time, but I know there's a place for you to type in as well to ask some questions. We'll reserve about 30 minutes towards the end of this to answer some questions. It's difficult in the time that we have to go deep in terms of specific tactics, but from a strategic perspective, part of my role is to ask some harder questions, get you thinking more as a team, and give you the tools to go back and work with your people back in the organization. The first part, we certainly touched on marketing, but in terms of marketing strategy and messaging and differentiation, didn't get deep into particular strategies. Once again, I think you live with this every day. This is what you do. You have a level of sophistication. Part of it is bringing to light some of the challenges and the changes we're seeing in the marketplace. I want to talk this last half and go deeper into some of the current thinking with customer experience. Opportunities where I think your real opportunity to grow the organization, to grow market share, is becoming more customer-centric. Now, I say this with the acknowledgement, I don't assume that we don't understand our customers. We do. You do this day in and day out. This is what you do. But there's a new school of thought, there's new mechanisms and opportunities to go even deeper. Once again, as we talk about customer mind share, it's not just about a greater share of their wallet, as I said, but a greater opportunity for understanding their lives and to be able to impact that. Once again, product-centric is being really good at understanding what we do, our products, delivering them, market share, very important. Customer-centric, of course, our expertise is understanding our customers better. Let's talk a little bit about customer service versus customer experience. I've been asked by others as well. I have a brand new book coming out, and so I'm doing media, I'm doing TV interviews and others, and they're saying, isn't customer experience just another word for customer service? And it's not. Customer service, very important. How we treat our customers, our guests, our interactions. But I think we know that. I think we get that. We have some wonderful colleagues who speak on customer service, very passionate, very persuasive. But I think that part we understand. Customer service is different. Customer service is more strategic. It's on the organizational level. It's looking at every point of contact along our customer journey, every point where they might connect with us, and asking the question, can it be done better or faster or more personalized? or more memorably. Our customer journey is one, by and large, that we've designed. Oftentimes we adopt what we call the franchise model. If we can have predictability and standardization of processes at every point of contact, whether it's our supply chain, whether it's our sales process, then with that comes a greater level of predictability of outcome, of revenue. We go back to the 80s and 90s, the big quality improvement movement worldwide. Six Sigma, Kaizen, TQM, CQI, continuous quality improvement. It was a process, it was a mindset, it was a discipline. And consultants went into organizations around the world and said, we're going to help you be better in terms of your internal processes. Standardization. Here's how we do what we do. Another generation from the old 100 years ago, the assembly line, which made things easier to manufacture. But they said if we can standardize these processes, we can get better. And you know what? We got better. But somewhere along the line, there was a mindset that said, why don't we take that same mindset, that same standardization of processes, predictability, and apply it to our customer path and our customer journey. And sometimes that makes sense. When we go to a restaurant, we go and we order, we customize our purchase, we choose the items, we go and we pay at the end. It's a process that makes sense for everybody. But there came a time when we started saying, here's how we want people to buy from us. And sometimes we didn't ask if that's how they wanted to buy from us. And as we talk about some of those different pillars of a great customer experience, that humanity and that individualization doesn't necessarily take that into account. Customer service is that point of contact. Customer experience is what we design, how people will experience us at every point of contact. And they judge whether that's effective. Customer service in many organizations has come to mean the complaint department. Isn't that interesting? When you ask for customer service, it's really the complaint department. And my message to businesses is if you have so many unhappy customers that you have to create an entire department to deal with them, can we not reallocate some of those funds to make it better in the first place? Doesn't mean everybody's going to be happy. But the smart companies are recognizing where there's points of contact that can be enhanced, but can also be corrected. Because there's things that we're doing that are frustrating people. Your brand promise is who you say you are, but the customer experience is how they receive it, how they deliver it. So we can talk about how much we value our customers, right? And then we put them on hold for 20 minutes and they don't see it. We can have phenomenal products and services. We can design and innovate and deliver. And then there's one point of contact that's a bottleneck, that's a frustration point, and they're gone. It's not that customer loyalty is dead. It's just much harder to earn and much harder to foster and to keep because it's so easy to leave you. Retention in yesteryear was a function of doing what we say we're going to do. Say what we'll do and do what we say. And if we honor our promises, then we retained our customers. Today they're so impatient and intolerant. Oh, wait a minute, it's not them, it's us. It's all of us. We leave because we can. So one of the things we do is we talk about creating a great customer experience that aligns with what our customers want, not just today, but in the future. As we talk about future-proofing our organization, once again, as we look 1 year from now, 2 years from now, how are people going to want to do business differently? Are we preparing for that today? Are we having strategic discussions? If we know this is how they're going to want to do business, can we create that working group, that task force to be ready? But before we do all of that, we have to fix anything and everything that's not great. So here's some examples. For those who are sort of in a B2B space, right? It's not always how that customer is not a fast food restaurant, right? What does B2B look like in terms of customer experience, right? It's the product tracking. What are the things that they're asking for? Are you tracking the things that people are requesting? One of the exercises in the book, and we don't have time to do that, is to recognize all the times that we say no. The things that, no, we don't do that, we don't offer that. These are the things that people are asking for. Once again, they're learning from other industries that it can be done. So their expectations are that they can do this from you as well. Now, I will tell you also, for those who are taking pictures, you can take pictures all you want. I will offer these slides up to everybody. I know there's a recording of the session that also includes the slides, but I will make sure through the organization that we, or if you're outside of Agthia, give me a business card before we leave. I will send you all of these slides so you have all of this as well. So as I was saying, before we look at designing something and enhancing what we have to fix anything and everything that's not great. Because people will leave over minor infractions. We knew growing up you could have a wonderful restaurant experience, and if the toilets are dirty, then it clouds your whole impression of that experience. Well, now that message applies to every business. You can have a phenomenal business, and that one point of contact that's a little bit frustrating can drive people away. We grew up in business. It was called guest relations philosophy. It said that the average person with a positive experience will tell 2 or 3 people, but somebody with a negative experience will tell 10. We've all heard that, right? Friends, none of that's true anymore. Now we tell thousands. Now we tell millions. Just drag a paying customer off your airplane and see how fast that spreads. We all saw the videos of United Airlines, right? People feel it's not only their right, it's their responsibility. If they feel insulted, if they feel disrespected, even over minor, stupid things, they share it with everybody. They used to scream to their friends, I can't stand it, I'm never going back there again. Now they go online and they tell everybody. And everybody does. You have to do business as if every one of your customers and prospects is armed with a video camera. Because they are. And anything, you can have a $1 billion brand and some 16-year-old on the front line who does something stupid or inappropriate and uploads a video, and all of a sudden your brand is at risk. It's a scary time to be in business. But this dynamic faces your competitors as well. Everybody's facing. It's a new reality. Everything is shared. So the importance of taking out that magnifying glass and looking at every point of contact and finding out excuse me, where there might be a point of frustration is crucial today. And we do that as a team, as an organization. We have to have fresh eyes. The things that we do every day, sometimes we stop seeing. You ever drive home and you get home and you think to yourself, how did I get here? Like I have no recollection of the last 20 minutes because we zone out because we're so used to it. But then all of a sudden somebody paints their building or somebody breaks ground on a new project or just something that's different that turns our heads. We all get focused. We stop seeing. You stop seeing your organization. Take a step back and look with fresh eyes. Sometimes I'll work with clients on very complicated websites, and I'll say, I went to your website, I couldn't find extra. Oh, no, it's really easy. You just go here, look, just click on this, do the drop-down menu, it goes to the right, whatever. I'm like, yeah, but you know how your website works. I'm coming for the first time. My user experience is frustrating. I do a lot of work with financial services. Insurance, financial services, I've spoken around the world. For banks, for a generation, they have stated clearly that their competitive advantage is that they know their customers by name. It's the face-to-face, it's the relationship. That's what they built their business on. Well, what happens when your primary bank branch is your phone. Now, everything that they base their advantage, their relationships on, is gone because I'm not even dealing with the real person at all. Does this mean that customer experience goes away? No, this is my new experience. Now my new experience is, how easy can I get what I want? Some organizations work very hard to restrict access. They don't want you to talk to a real person, and it's frustrating. You ever go to a website and you're like, you need to get something solved, and you can't find a phone number, they can't find an actual phone number, and it's so frustrating because they don't want you to have one. We're going to talk about that. But in some cases, I don't want to talk to a real person. I just want to stretch. My daughter is at university, and when she texts me, the ringtone for my daughter's text is a cash register. It just goes cha-ching. And so she was home over holiday, and she texts me from the other side of the room, because that's what teenagers do. And it goes cha-ching. She goes, "What was that?" I said, "That was you texting me." She says, "A cash register?" I said, "All you want is money." Whenever she's like, "Okay, that's true." But it's very simple. She needs money. I can just transfer it. Boop, 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 boop. I'm done. That's my user experience. That's my customer experience. But how the bank designs that is a wholesale change for them in how people experience doing business with a bank. It doesn't mean that there aren't opportunities for face-to-face, but organizations are rethinking the user experience based on how their customers want to do business. And once again, as we talk about future-proofing your business, you have to be able to anticipate how they want to do business differently. I'm going to give you examples. So I was consulting with a client in California in the United States, and this company has paper stores. So a physical location, you go in there and you buy, for businesses, you buy envelopes, you buy forms. I mean, talk about an industry that is under assault, because so much of what we do is paperless. But they're doing pretty well. And I always say, even in any disruption, there are winners. There's a lot of losers, but the people who can modify and morph can be winners in that. Well, their challenge is, my challenge for them, so we have a room full of tables, and I said, I want everybody to look at a different point of contact. And I want you to brainstorm together a different way of doing it. Money is no object, and even technology, even if it doesn't exist, how might somebody want to do business with you a year from now? Once again, we don't say a generation. So we're working on this as groups, as part of my consulting, and so I talked to this one table. I said, "So what do you have?" And I'm walking with the microphone, and he says, "So we have an online store as well as a physical store. And so the point of contact we chose to innovate from a customer experience perspective is the chat feature." I said, "Okay, what would you do differently?" He says, "So when somebody has a question and they're trying to buy forms or envelopes online, they click the chat, but they get a live person." I said, "Okay." And they said, "But the person's on camera." And I said, "Okay, that's great." I said, "Are they in the Philippines? Are they?" He says, "No, the person is actually in the store." I said, "Okay, that's pretty innovative." So they can actually ask somebody in the store on camera a question they might have. He says, "No, it's even better. The camera is on a drone." And I said, "Okay, this is the coolest thing ever. Tell me." He says, "So if somebody wanted to ask a question during business hours, they would punch this up, would come over to an associate, hover in front of them with a camera, two-way, said, 'Hi, can I help you?' 'Yeah, I'm looking for whatever particular firm.' You know, actually, I think we have that here. Hang on. Is it this one right here? This one? No, one below it. This one. Okay, good. Hang on. Just punch in the quantity and you're good. Okay, great. Thank you." I'm like, somebody's going to do that. And it came from them saying, how are people going to want to do business differently? What are they going to expect in terms of immediacy and all of those as well? Sometimes we create our policies and procedures to make life easier for our team. And there's a reason why this happens. Sometimes it's an event or something. We create structure like we do our external flow, but we do it internally. And it frustrates our customers. I'm going to give you an example. So, near my home, there is this gymnastics and dance and Cheer Academy, multi-million-dollar facility they built for young people doing dance and gymnastics and cheerleading. It's a big American thing. Young people being taught, they open up, big fanfare, millions of dollars, the classes are all full. 1 year later, the director calls me and he says, we're struggling. I said, really? I said, it looked like the place was very popular. He says, yeah, but we're struggling to retain our customers, our students. I said, why? He said, I don't know. Would you come in and audit, sit in some of the classes, talk to the parents, help me understand why people are leaving? And I said, sure, let me find time. I'm going to be in town. So I show up on a Tuesday afternoon, probably 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I walk in the front doors, and within 10 seconds, I knew what the problem was. Because everywhere I looked, there was a sign. And I said, what's with the signs? He says, oh, those are for the parents. I said, well, that's clear, but why? They're not allowed to talk? He said, well, we don't want them talking to the students during class. We want them to pay attention. I said, okay, but what's with the yellow sign? Parents who are late picking up their children, you're charging them extra money? And he says, yeah, sometimes their parents are late. I said, okay, so? He says, but they're late picking. I said, yeah, but why? You're charging them money? It's not like the kids are outside. They're sitting there playing on their phones, they're watching TV. Why do you care if the parents are late? And he says, well, it's a matter of respect. And I said, I agree. Why are you disrespecting your parents? They have choices. They're spending money and you're charging them money because you don't like the fact that they're late. I said, what's with the popcorn? They're not allowed to eat popcorn? And he says, well, not in the viewing area where they watch the children. I'm like, but that's where the parents want to be. They want to watch their children. Yeah, but it makes a mess. I said, okay. He said, well, my staff has to clean it up. I said, okay. I said, let's be clear. You have a popcorn machine. You sell popcorn, but parents aren't allowed to eat the popcorn you just sold them? I said, can we gather the whole staff together? So we gathered together these beautiful young people who were teaching gymnastics to the children. And I said, let me ask you a question. And I'm asking them this question. I said, how many of you have children of your own? Not a single hand was raised. And I was like, okay, as a father, I come to you from the future. There's nothing that makes us feel better than watching our children be proud of themselves. This is our choice to come. They could do sport, they could do musical instruments, they could sit at home. We're choosing to be here. We're paying you money, and you're making us miserable. Every one of those policies was to make life easier for their team. You're not in business to make life easy for your team. You're in business to thrill your customers. Now, our people are very important, but they're not more important than our customers. And I think when our people, when our employees understand why we do what we do, our policies and procedures have to be in place to make life easier for them because they have choices, because they can leave. Long story short, all the signs came down. Kids were having a great time. The parents weren't, but now they were. Because they were trying to, and every time, so as you look at your departments, the reasons that we say no, the policies that we have, most of those are in place as a reaction to something that happened, right? There's a reason, some offense happened. I'll call a restaurant and I'm trying to order food and get it delivered to my home for a catering event, and there was a company wouldn't take a credit card over the phone. And I'm like, why? Well, it's our policy. Well, you know why they have the policy, because somebody probably had a bad credit card, and so now everybody has to pay for that mistake. And I said, no, but I'll pay you beforehand. I mean, I'll give you my card, run it now. Sorry, it's our policy. Really? And so I left. Look at your policies and procedures. Are they there to make life better for your team? Are there points of frustration? Because that's important. Do you have, one of the things that gets everybody frustrated, and we see this all the time, you ever go to a website and you're trying to find a real person, but you see a contact form. Nobody wants to fill out. Contact form is the answering machine of the internet, right? But they were told that by some web developer or something, saying we're going to direct all your people to do business this way. If all your people fill out the form, then you can get additional information. I do a lot of work with real estate, people selling real estate and homes. And they want you to fill out their form because they want to know your information, what's your budget, right? But that's what they want, so they can pre-qualify you. You know what I want? I just want, give me the price. There's a lot of things that we want people to do business. The question, we have to ask the question, is that how they want to do business with us? Here's a wonderful example of the difference between how we design how it's done and what the user wants. So I want you to have a heightened sensitivity with your team. Look at your customer journey. And I know it's a fancy way of saying every point of contact, from the first time that they're looking for a vendor, a service, a product. It doesn't mean they're looking for you. They're just looking for someone. Where do they start? If they start online, what words are they going to put in? Do they find you? Do they find competitors? What do they see with the competitors? What do they see with you? How do they contact you? How do they find information? Is it easy to find information? Are we falling back on frequently asked questions because we're tired of answering the same question over and over again? Are you making your customers search for information that you could give them in 5 seconds because it's easier for you? Remember, the customers have choices. If we make them frustrated, they will leave when they can. Customer experience from that perspective is being diligent and looking at all those points of contact. Who's answering the phone? The people who are answering the phone, are they trained on extracting the kinds of information, providing the kind of information? Are we allowing our people to make decisions? Or are we restricting them in terms of what they can say? Because here's what we were talking about this last night at dinner with Mubarak and Tufik as well, talking about sort of trends in HR. And that we worked very hard to hire the right people. We put out the right advertisements. We have interviews face to face. We want to understand their history. We want to understand their judgment, so we ask them questions. How would you handle a situation? What was the biggest challenge? How did you overcome it? But then too often in organizations, we bring them in and then we immediately neuter them. We take away their ability to make decisions. We hire them for the great decision making, and then we say, here's our policies, here's how we want you to do things. And I understand, once again, it's for a greater level of predictability. But are we empowering our people to be flexible with our customers when they need it? And we're going to talk about some of those specific. As we future-proof our business, once again, it's not only analyzing how we're doing business today. How are people contacting us? How fast do they get what they want? Are we making them do our job to find information that we can find for them as well? But future-proofing means looking prospectively. These are the hard conversations with your team. And taking time off and asking a question, okay, at this point of contact, at the order point, at the discovery point, how do we think they may want to do it differently in a year or 2 years? Are they going to want the choice of doing something online? Is there a way to do something where they can ask a real question and get immediate feedback? We see a lot of innovations around artificial intelligence and others, predictive kinds of questions. Google AI is doing some remarkable things in its infancy. But as we future-proof of saying, how do we think, and are we going to respond to that change? Are we going to prepare for that change? Or are we going to lead that change? That company that thought, and maybe it's a crazy idea, of having drones in the store that follow employees around so you can have conversations with them. Maybe it's crazy, maybe it's not crazy. But if they start working on it now, could they be ready to do it in a year? Could that be, from a marketing perspective, giving them something interesting to talk about? Do you think magazines and other online resources would love to tell the story about this store in California that has drones buzzing around and you can ask them questions? If you want people to be interested, you have to be interesting. If you want people to talk about you, you have to give them something to talk about. And innovation comes from that. And the whole idea of this conversation is to spark conversation. My job is to ask you some challenging questions and let you go back to your teams and come up with answers. We know some of the innovation that's happening with the the vitamin D and the others, and there's so many products out there and such great innovation. That comes from asking those questions. Is this the way it should be done? As you look at those points of contact, ask the question, is this the way it should be done? And in most cases, the answer is yes. You're doing exactly the way you're supposed to. But are you susceptible to somebody else who's innovating? Somebody else who might take that innovation all the way to disruption? We see the death of certain industries that did nothing wrong other than they were complacent. This is how it's going to be and how it's always going to be. And we see this with orthodontists and others as well. They never saw that coming. Taxi drivers never saw that coming. But you should. And you can, because now we've seen some extreme examples of innovation and disruption. Now we have those conversations. Are we susceptible to that? Is there somebody working in a dark room somewhere coming up with an idea that's going to challenge our business model? The greater opportunity is for us to have those conversations. Let's disrupt our own business model. There's a great exercise that says, imagine you were all of a sudden no longer working for your company, and you were funded to create a competing company for your division. All of a sudden, you were going to create a new water company, a new Agthia, a new subsidiary, but you were going to be in direct competition with your current company. Knowing what you know about what they're good at and what they may not be so good at, what company would you create? What would you do differently to threaten the market share of your current company? Do that now. That's one of the wonderful lessons Marshall Goldsmith, a big fan as well, he talks about if you were going to meet your 80, 90-year-old self, imagine what they would tell you about how to live your life. What would they tell you of that wisdom born of experience? What advice would they give you? And then he says, whatever you know that they would tell you, do that, because you already know. When you look at where you're vulnerable, that's where that exercise comes from. But sometimes we get very bogged down in the day-to-day work that we do. You're taking a day today. Those of you watching on live stream, you're taking some time off. Have some of those hard discussions. All right, I talked before about the 5 pillars of what really will constitute a successful company that's different from what even 10 years ago. And that first one was immediacy, and I want to go a little bit deeper in that. We expect what we want. People want somebody to talk to now. They want to be able to reach somebody. They want to be able to order now. They want to be able to have visibility into the supply chain. Where do things stand? Where is my order? Who's in charge of this? Anything that you can do, anything that you look at your processes now that involve any kind of a delay, find a way to backfill that. Even if it's an after hours, and many of us are international and we're around the clock. Certainly what I do, when a call comes in, because I work around the world, when a call comes in at 2 o'clock in the morning, it's answered by a real person in my company. Even if you can't, do you have live chat? Do you have somebody else who can respond? And even if you can't give them the answer now, can you give them a good sense of how long that is? One of the customer experience innovations that we've seen in recent years is you used to go on hold, you call a company, you know that you have to go on hold and they come back every 5 minutes and say, your call is very important to us. Well, the new innovation, because people didn't know, when they heard that your call is very important, is it the first time I'm going to hear it, or am I going to hear it 40 more times? Well, now they say your expected wait time is 6 minutes. Well, guess what? I can wait 6 minutes. But when I didn't know how long, my frustration is growing every time your call is important. Your call is important. It's clearly not important. But when I know that, I'm okay with immediacy. I'm okay if it's 12 minutes, if I know it's going to be 12 minutes. What are we doing to be available? I like this definition because it's not just about now, but it's helping to bring involvement now. People are calling you for a reason. People are trying to find information for a reason, and most of those reasons benefit you. And anytime they don't they get very, very frustrated, right? Live chat support. I just spoke for a big international real estate association, and this was a cool example of something that goes along those lines. The video that I showed earlier about all the things that we order at home and our expectations of being able to order things and just have it delivered. Excuse me. It's a company called Matterport, and they have those 360-degree cameras, but this is remarkable. For those who are looking for a new home, for the people who do this, I asked the company, I said, what is it you sell exactly? And he says, we sell the camera. And it's high def, and you can sit in your home and hover above these houses and zoom in with your mouse and tour around and tour houses as if you're walking around the houses. And it's a new generation, it's high def, it's fluid, you can go up, you can look down, and people can go look at houses before they look at houses. They can pre-qualify. It's another example of sampling, right? Helps us make a safe decision because we have a chance to try. We get a sense of what it's like to buy from you before we buy from you. Sampling in your industry might be actual physical sampling, but it also might be testimonials. It might be videos of other people, social proof, who say, this was unbelievable. What they've been able to do, this was great. I love it for my family, right? But to being able to do that without having to, whoever makes it easier to do business in the future will win. It doesn't mean every business unit, every point of contact. But if there's an opportunity to expedite, to help somebody get what they want faster, you will win. And those that don't are susceptible to others that do. It's different kinds of innovation. And in this one, I thought that was kind of interesting. And of course, Amazon, what they're doing with their Prime Air. The only delay is regulatory right now. Airspace and others as well. The expectation was just that they were going to have warehouses and drones that were going to be able to fly, and now they have the patents. You go online on YouTube and you can search Amazon drone. They've already tested it. They have the patents, the technology to float blimps over major cities. As I said before, once a week, they go down, they fill it with their top things. They have patents for charging technology on the top of buildings and lampposts for charging drones. Our expectations in terms of immediacy. Companies who were like, how do we compete against that? I said, that's the right question. And you better answer it. Because other people, the only thing you have no control over is what your competitors are doing. You have no control over what somebody else is innovating. And you got to be careful that you're not subject to what they're doing. Our expectations of immediacy are only going to grow. As a consumer, I love it. As a business owner and consultant, it is a big challenge because not everybody can do what Amazon can do. So what can you do? First one was immediacy. These are a little bit out of order. Next one is individuality. Individuality is about understanding that people want to customize the experience. It doesn't mean, that everything that we do is an experience. Buying water isn't intended to be an experience. It's a transaction, right? It's my product placement we talked about before. That I'm just going to do a different kind of water every time. Refreshing. It's not meant to be an experience. Drinking it certainly is. It's refreshing. I don't know that it's more refreshing than others. Knowing the history behind it, knowing the innovation makes me feel better. But that transaction isn't intended to be a wow experience. But where are there opportunities? Maybe in the purchasing, maybe in the quantities, maybe the vendors that you're working with, the resellers and others, there's some level of custom program that not only would help accommodate them, but would engender a sense of loyalty. They like that you're flexible for them, that you can help create a specific program that meets their needs. As we had talked in the back before about not just being a vendor, but being a true partner and helping them grow the category. Well, how are you going to do that? Let's put our heads together. That's flexibility, right? For the young people, flexibility means self-expression. They don't want to do it the way that you say they have to do it. Where are there opportunities that might exist? Now, not every one of these pillars is going to apply to every business unit, but it's important to ask the question, can we be flexible? Can they have choices of how they do what they do? There was a great campaign, which is a great quote, we'll leave that there, that Coca-Cola did worldwide a few years ago, where they had ethnically appropriate names in different parts of the world, right? You tried to search for your name. It was kind of fun to go to the grocery store, see if you could find names of your kids. My kids have unique names, so I can never find their names. Well, now they've taken to another extent, you can actually get whatever names you want. If you're getting married, you can put the names of the couple on there. It's like $25 US for, what's that, about 100, right? Here locally. Who would pay that for a 6-pack of Coke? I would. I like it. I think it's kind of fun. I would totally. You can get M&Ms with your picture on it. Like I said, my 15-year-old son doesn't want to buy. Excuse me. This is where I look like I'm getting emotional. I'm good. He doesn't want to buy his tennis shoes at the store. He wants to customize them. Individuality, and there's going to be a growing trend towards this, is can we help them do it the way they want to do it? All right. Here's the third one. And this is the one that I'm the most passionate about. Can we infuse a sense of humanity into what we do? Once again, this is not in lieu of being competitive. This is not doing the right thing because it's the right thing, doing the right thing because it's the smart thing. And it's smart for business. Once again, as we talk about our processes that we create them for a measure of predictability. We don't want our people making a lot of decisions because we don't want them to make a poor decision. But the reality is your customers, and this is only growing, are going to have requests and scenarios that don't fit your preconceived customer path. You're going to have requests for urgency, for flexibility, for accommodation that don't fit your training. You have to find ways to say yes when you can. I'm not a big fan of policies. I understand when they're important, but I love guidelines. Train your people in appropriate decision making and not just policy quoting. This is not that policies are unimportant. We have to have a way of doing business the way we do business. I get that. But not every situation is covered. The easiest answer in most situations, when a special accommodation is requested, the answer is, sorry, we don't do that. But that's too easy a response, and we're losing an opportunity. If somebody is in a restaurant and she's got a chicken Caesar salad and she'd rather have shrimp than chicken, and she asks the waiter, I see you have shrimp on thing, can I substitute shrimp for chicken? Oh, sorry, we don't do substitutions. Why? They don't do substitutions because the chef or the cook doesn't want to. I don't care what the chef wants to do. They say no substitutions because they don't know how to price it. Okay, if she wants shrimp, give her shrimp. What's the alternative? Not giving your customer what they want? And then they leave unhappy and they go online and they rant about you online? I know it's a B2C example, but it's more the issue of accommodation. We say no too often because it's just easier than saying yes. But we're missing a huge opportunity. If somebody needs overnight shipping, you say we don't do overnight shipping. Well, guess what? There's probably a way to make that happen. And it'll take some effort and it'll take some creativity, but you know what? Customers love that. They love when we take an extra effort. They love when we have creativity. I talked about the Four Seasons done. Yes, you expect that because it's a luxury property. But where are there opportunities at every point along your line, in every conversation, to accommodate? Because what that really is, that's humanity. It's just respecting people. Do you know why they're asking? Because they need it. Most people don't ask unless it's something that they need. The answer that I get oftentimes, the dismissive answer I'll get from company leaders and others, is they'll say, well, if we do it for them, we have to do it for everybody. You don't have to do it for everybody. You just have to do it for the people who ask, if you can. Because most people will never ask for a special accommodation. It's a bogus excuse. The slippery slope. We have to do it for them, we have to do it for everybody. You don't have to do it for everybody. Because very few people will ask for special requests. And yes, it's hard. And yes, it's a pain. And yes, it's harder on your team. But customers love it. I had a scenario where I was, this one. Here's a great thing. I saw this last night. I actually did it. Sometimes it's a little gesture that can make nothing for you, but it means the world to them. Look at this guy's smile in the back. Is that the greatest thing? Usain Bolt, he's about to go in thing. He's pretty excited because he gets to be one of the race people. He gives him a fist bump. He made this kid's day. That smile is huge. For Usain Bolt, it was nothing. It's just a quick little, hey, what's up? For most of your team, it's the same thing. It's a different mindset. My colleague Shep Hyken, who's great in customer service, he has a great line. He says, your employees should never have to ask permission to say yes to a customer. They should only have to ask permission to say no. What a different mindset is, isn't it? It's a mindset of always accommodating. Here at the Four Seasons, they don't say yes. They say it would be my pleasure. You call and ask for a room, my pleasure to connect you. It's not just a yes, it's this is what we do. As they went over to the pharmacy and they got me cough drops over the break, they're wonderful. It's humanity. Everybody wins, everybody feels good. But we fall into a trap as an organization that it's easier just to say it's not what we do. We're not being mean, we're not trying to be dismissive, it's just not what we do. One of the exercises in the book to work with your team is identify all the times that we say no. And sometimes it's not no, sometimes it's sorry, you can't bring no food or drink. Or no, we don't do that. Sorry, we can't, right? Could you say yes? And the exercise with your team, and we're not going to do it here today, but I encourage you to do, is to go back and look and ask yourself and ask your team the question, what kind of requests do we get on a regular basis that we say we can't do that, right? And some no requests are reasonable and rational. We have to say no. If it's a vegetarian restaurant, they're not going to serve lamb. You shouldn't accommodate that person. That's their entire business model. Well, but can I get lamb? We don't serve meat. Well, that's a reasonable no. It should stay no. But there's other times when, even if it's a no, there's a reasonable accommodation. And what I counsel organizations, even when you can't do something, you know you can't, offer an alternative. They say, what can I do? We don't have the structure for that. But let me tell you what I can do. Once again, that thrills customers. It engenders loyalty. The no's send them away frustrated. They want something, they couldn't have it. And then the other alternative, of course, is find a way to say yes. Maybe it's something you can accommodate, maybe it's something you build into your system. So the exercise that I have, and it's in the book, and you're welcome to take that with you, is, is look at those opportunities. Every time that we know we have to say no, it's a request we get a lot of times, it's just not something we do. And every request has to go into one of the three categories. Either we have to say no, we offer an alternative, or we find a way to say yes. And there's no other options. It makes your team very, very creative, but it also gets them on the same page. You find ways of saying yes more often, or at least pleasing your customers. One of the examples that I use is, I travel a lot, and as I said, I'm a Hilton guy. So when I can, I stay at a Hilton property because that's where my points are. And so I'm leaving one morning. I'm going to speak to a CEO roundtable group. And it's 7 in the morning. I'm not going to be done till noon. Stop at the front desk and I say, I just wanted to let you know, I'm in room 237. I need to do a late checkout today. And she goes, oh, sorry, we're not doing late checkouts. And I said, I don't get off stage until noon, but I'll race back. I'm only 5 minutes away. I can be out by 12:30. She goes, oh, sorry. We have a conference coming in, and we're not doing any late checkouts. And I'm thinking she didn't hear me. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. I don't even get done till noon. She says, you have to be out by noon. I said, I can't. She says, well, if you can't be out by noon, I'm going to have to charge you for a second day. Now, of course, I teach this. And so I pause, and I look at her and said, okay, all right, then here's what I'm going to do. If you're going to charge me for a second day, I'm not going to check out of the room at all. If I'm going to pay for the room, I'm going to stay in the room. Now the conference attendee doesn't have a room at all. Is that the outcome you were looking for? She's like, let me talk to my manager, right? 1 o'clock would be fine. Yeah, thank you. Come on. Now, do you think she wanted to say yes to me? Of course she did. She wasn't allowed to. Because the easy answer is no. Don't make people beg for the things that they need. When they have an emergency, when they need something expedited, sometimes people are willing to pay more to jump the queue. But if somebody wants, create a culture, and this is going to be very important in the years to come, a culture of accommodation for special requests, for special scenarios. It crosses the line between both the individuality and the humanity comes into play. But sometimes we are so rigid. This is one of the worst. This is what I call a cruel policy. And we see this all the time. Only toilets for paying customers. Really? Has anybody ever bought anything? Any of you ever bought something you wouldn't have bought otherwise just so you could use the toilet? A pack of gum, a cup of coffee, just something so you could pay something. My gosh, they have to use the toilet. Be a human being. Well, we don't want people taking advantage. They're not taking advantage of you. They have to use the toilet. That's mean. It's cruel. But it comes about because this is for, really? Be human. Human beings have compassion, have understanding. When somebody asks to use the toilet, it's because they have to use the toilet, not because they're trying to take advantage of you. I'm not saying you're doing this, but this is an example of those kinds of rigid, inhuman policies. You are going to get not only requests, but expectations of some levels of accommodation and flexibility. Your future is going to require your level of flexibility of your people. Be creative to make them happy, because the alternative, once again, is unhappy. So I saw this online. I wish I knew what the name of the company was, but this was in the window of a coffee shop. And I'll let you read this. And for those at home, we'll get out of the way. Is this wonderful? It's just human. It's saying, you know what? You may not be a customer. Do you think somebody would come back and want to do business with them again? Of course. But the other company, it's like, okay, good for you. You just got $1 of my money so I could use your toilet and I'm never coming back again. We're trying to engender loyalty. Good companies, right? We said at the beginning, my colleague Frank Bucaro, a good company is the company that you want to work for, partner with, invest in, and buy from. Good companies do good things. Not just because it's the right thing to do, but because it's the smart thing. And one of the things I love about Agthia is the internal culture, the wholehearted. It's been thought out. It's expressed so well in your materials as well. The challenge, the consistency part, is making sure that your customers see it as often as possible. Here's where the pillars again. Immediacy. Can we help them do what they want as fast as they can? The humanity, the individuality. And then it goes back to this again. The consistency. So as we have these conversations within the organization, within our teams, how can we be better at these elements? How can we infuse them into all of our interactions and transactions? Are we consistent? Is somebody in charge of this? Is there an actual policy? It doesn't mean that there's a script, but it means there's an expectation. I tell organizations, if you brag, if you boast about your great customer service, And I hear companies say this a lot. What makes us different is we have amazing customer service. And I say, really? So if you have great customer service, if you don't have a specific training program to train customer service to your people, even if it's proprietary, even if it's internal, if you aren't evaluating your people based on their customer service delivery, if you aren't compensating them based on them meeting the standards that you've set, then you have no right to say it, because you have no way of ensuring its consistent delivery. You have to have somebody in charge. You have to have a program in place. These are wonderful platitudes, the immediacy, the humanity, but it only works as if it's consistent. Otherwise, it's just a meeting. Otherwise, it's just a motivational talk. Instead of something that you do, this is who we are. And it ties so well into the year of tolerance and everything else. This is who we are. And this is how it affects our behavior. This is how our customers and our clients and our prospects and our partners and our vendors are going to experience doing business with us. And it requires a program. Now, here's the pushback that I get, and I want to talk to the senior leaders in this room. Sometimes programs and outside speakers coming from America or whatever, it can be overwhelming. You have this thought in your mind, I don't have time for another program. I don't have time for another initiative. I don't have time for something new on my plate. I'm already so busy. Here's my message to you. This is not about doing more. This is about doing what you're already doing differently and better and more humanly and more facilitated and more memorable. This is about looking at what we're already doing it and doing it more consistently and training and teaching our people to embody these values. And the last one, of course, is promotability. When you're so good at this and you're so consistent that it becomes who you are, your customers and your vendors and your prospects and your buyers know it, and they see it and they feel it. When I had that experience yesterday morning with my inhaler for my cough from the concierge at the Four Seasons, it's something worth talking about. But it is who they are. It is their brand. And everybody in the room knew that. Was anybody surprised that they went and got me medicine? No, because they're so consistent in their excellence, and the team and the staff who's been helping us today as well have been so excellent in their delivery. In our mind, that's just who they are. Well, that doesn't happen by accident, does it? It happens with oversight and standards. And our standards are here. And when you don't meet the standard, one of the things that we talk about, groom or broom, help them be great or wash them out. Because it becomes what I call a catalyst for conformity. People who are not excellent stand out. We know other organizations where those who are the best, the excellent ones, really stand out. The best organizations, it's the poor performers that stand out because everybody's good. It's the Disney standard, right? They talk about it, Tom Peters, in the book In Search of Excellence, and they talk about the story of Disney. And they're not called employees, they're cast members. And when they're working in the amusement parks, they're on stage. And when they're on stage, this is how we perform. When you go off stage, in the underpark, in the break rooms, you can let your guard down. But when you're on stage, our cast members on stage, and some of those cast members are sweeping the floor, and some of the cast members are running rides. But here's the standard, and it becomes who they are. And it becomes so consistent that it's promotable. The good news is you're already starting here. There's organizations who are in serious trouble across America and around the world, who are being disrupted, who are being threatened, who have old business models, who have apathetic leaders. And the challenge of building up a reputation is a challenge. You're already here. That's the thing about brand, about your reputation. It's a lot easier to form an impression than to change one. And for those who have fallen short, right, once a thought has been thought and a feeling has been felt, it's hard to change those. The good news is you're here. The question is, what are you going to be a year from now, as you look to introduce yourself on a global level. You enjoy local dominance, but as you know, expansion globally is a bigger challenge because it's not only building the market and the market share and building the mind share, but it's introducing a company that they don't know. You're starting from scratch. You don't have brand equity. You have a clean slate. The standards that you set here are the ones that we transfer as we go global and look at new markets as well. But that requires a measure of intentionality. It's not just about being good at what you do. It's about thinking these thoughts and asking hard questions now. If we're going to be a global brand, if we are going to influence the life cycle of a consumer, as we talk about becoming customer-centric, the expertise isn't just in our products, our expertise is in them. And that's the exercise that we're going to do a little bit here in a second. So, the opportunity is to know our customers better. And there's information that I think you haven't thought of. Because I will give you this and grant you, of course we know our customers. You do this every day. You know your customers way better than I do. But we know them from a demographic perspective. We understand who they are. We understand, excuse me. You guys have been very patient. I was joking during the break that people feel sorry for me because I'm coughing, and I'm telling you, this is my best day in 2 weeks. So I feel like I'm doing great, so don't feel sorry for me at all. So, we understand the demographics. We understand buying behaviors. We understand who our core buyers are among different brand categories. But the opportunity is to understand them more in terms of their day, their pressures, the expectations. Because some of our customers, of course, are buyers from different divisions within different commodity industries. The golden rule, we all know, is do unto others as you would have done unto you. In other words, treat people like you want to be treated. That's old school thinking. Because you aren't your customers. We've heard this forever. Treat people like you want to be treated. Or I hear this a lot from leaders. Listen, we treat our customers like family. I see how some of you treat your families. Not always a good thing. It's too easy. It's too dismissive. Because I know we can do better. Because here's the reality. I'm going to give you an example. So say there's a McDonald's restaurant, right? Global. There's a 16-year-old young man who's on the front lines, and they tell him, treat your customers like you want to be treated. How does he want to be treated? He wants the girls to think he's good looking. He wants people to think he's cool. He wants people to like his Instagram posts. He wants his 17-year-old assistant manager to get off his back. He may want to do the least amount of work possible. That's how he wants to be treated. Who's me? I'm the old guy who just got off 4 airplanes in the last 13 hours. I'm tired. I have digestive issues. I have daddy guilt. I'm exhausted. How do I want to be treated? I want empathy. I want people to understand I've had a tough day. I want expedited service. I want it to be fast and efficient. I don't necessarily want the talk. Just be sensitive to the fact that I'm exhausted. Do I want to be treated like he wants to be treated? Of course not. Well, how does he know? Let's answer that question. Would he know it? Well, no, but he could have a good idea if the training is right. You aren't your customers. Can we understand them better? One of the best examples is we talk about a day in the life of the customer. Can you understand a day in the life? Stop this spasm here. We call it D-Lock, day in the life of the customer. A wonderful exercise for you to do, and we're going to do it here together out of the workbook. Day in the life of the customer. And I want to show you this video first. There's a fast food place in America called Chick-fil-A. I don't think they have it here yet. They have Chick-fil-A here? It is the fastest growing in America by far. It just bypassed 3 others. It's now the number 3 fast food place in America behind Starbucks, because they have food now, and McDonald's. And they do it largely through their customer experience. So every employee that is hired sees this video, and I edited it down and made it a little bit shorter, but it'll give you an idea of what it is that they see. Do you think those young people look at their customers differently? Do you think they have a better sense that every person has a story? People have families, they have pressures, they have lives that you don't know anything about. Now listen, we all understand this, but do we think about it? When we think about that buyer who is buying what it is that we're selling and has multiple choices, they might be buying commodities and others, do we think about who they report to? Do we think about their families or the challenges that their company is facing? Do we think about who they need to get authority from? Do we think about the things that they may be afraid of doing poorly that might reflect on their job? Do we understand what maybe they aspire to? Are they looking for to move up within the organization? Can we, potentially through helping them build their category, help them build their career? Or do we just think about the product and the features and benefits and the price? Because if we can align what we sell to the reasons that they buy and understand them better, we gain a competitive advantage. Optimizing our supply chain, our innovation, the product-oriented, the product-centric organization, you've got that part down. You're working on it every day. You're innovating, you're cost-containing, but the opportunities for growth is to understand them better. So I want to do an exercise. And I think this is the one I think is going to be very meaningful as a takeaway for you as well. So as you look in grab your workbook, please, and open up your workbook. And I want you to turn to page 15 in your workbook. So we're going to do an exercise that I think is going to prove very, very meaningful for you in your business. Create additional insights with no other information than what you already have in you and what we have in this room. So here's the exercise. I want you to create a profile of the perfect customer. Now we all understand the 80-20 rule, right? The 80-20 rule says that 20% of your customers are going to constitute 80% of your revenue and profit. Who are your best customers? We had more of these, right? Doesn't mean we have a lot of different kinds, but who's your best customer? It might be a buyer for a particular organization. It might be a mom with 3 kids. Whatever it is that you have and that you sell specifically. So what I want you to do is I want you to turn the page, and the page should say, I think it should say profile number 1. Are we on the same page here? Okay. Profile number 1 is on the next page. So what I want you to do, and we're going to do this together, I want you to think about Now that perfect customer might be based on somebody you already work with. Maybe it's a buyer for an organization. Who is that perfect customer? All right, so what page are we on? 16, right? Okay. So I want you to, first of all, grab a pen, and I want you to give this person an age. We're going to make up a person. We're going to create a profile of a fake person, but this is the perfect person for me to sell what we sell to. All right? How old is this person? All right, now give them a gender. Are they male or female? So maybe it's a 55-year-old female, whatever it is for you. What job or position do they have? Different for different subsidiaries, honored guests here in the room. If you sell directly to consumers, maybe your ideal person is a 25-year-old mom. If it's a buyer, it might be a 55-year-old buyer from this industry. Different for everybody in the room. You put down on the paper what works for you. Okay? Now, the person who has that job or position, what is their likely education level? University? Do they have a graduate degree? You're making it up, so it can be whatever you want it to be. All right? Work experience. So I want you to say something like, they have worked for this company for 15 years. Maybe you can even put where they worked last time. They are the senior buyer. They are the supply chain manager. Worked at the company for 4 years. Maybe they're young, maybe they're old. Your decision to make. All right? Marital status. Are they married? Are they single? And you may wonder why I'm even asking. I'm asking because these are real people. They have real lives. Even in the marital status, write down if they have kids. Make it up. They have 3 kids. They have grandchildren. Just want them to be real. All right? And the final thing, give them a name. Because real people have names. Do you have that vision in your mind? Do you know what they look like? Are they tall? Are they short? Where do they love to go out to dinner? Once you remember the person you're selling to isn't just a position. It's not just the buyer. It's Abdul. And Abdul has a wife and 3 kids. His oldest one is getting married. He's very excited. He's been with the company for 20 years. He wants to move up, so he's actually going back and getting a master's degree the company's helping him with. And one of his young children has special needs. Right? It's a real person. Now I want you to turn the page to page 17. And we're going to do something a little bit different. Because you don't sell to one person, I want you to create a second profile of another ideal buyer, but there's some different rules for this one. First of all, the second person, who's also a perfect client for you, this person has to be 15 years younger or older than person number 1. If the first one was a 35-year-old male, then the second one has to be at least a 50-year-old female. 15 years older or younger than person number 1. And this is my way of making sure that you're not just duplicating. I'm going to make you think a little bit. Okay? Gender has to be opposite. If the first one was male, the second one is female. Once again, this is a perfect person for you to sell to. You know they would love what it is. They need what you're offering. All right, go through the same thing. What's their job or position? It may not be about a job, it just may be a consumer category, different for everybody in the room. Same thing, education, work experience, I'll let you fill this stuff in yourself. And with this person as well, put a random fact. They're allergic to shellfish. They were an Olympic hopeful when they were in their 20s. Make them real. These are real people, good people, hardworking people. They're not just their demographic and they're not just their job. Okay? And of course, finally at the end, give them a name. Him or her. Real people have names. All right? Now we do the work. Now I want you to go back to page 16. And I want you to think about person number 1. I want you to look at, we're going to ignore person number 2 for right now. We're going back to person number 1. Look at them. Think about them. What do they look like? What's their voice like? All right, you got this person in your mind? You know what job they have? Now we're going to turn to page 18. All right, in this space, and I want you to write small because I have 5 questions, and each of those 5 questions are going to have 5 answers. So I want you to write small. And I want everybody to participate in this. So this is person number 1, your ideal customer. You really like this person. You know they need what you have. I want you to tell me 5 things that this person dislikes about buying from your category, from your industry. What do they not like? I don't like that people call me all the time. I don't like that new customers get special deals, and I don't get them anymore. I don't like that I'm the one who has to do the inventory when it comes to reordering. I don't like that there's 3% price increases every 6 months. Just things that they don't. These aren't macro, these are micro. These are actual behaviors. What is this real person? What do they just not like? What's frustrating to them? I don't like that I haven't been able to go on automatic billing. I don't like that I have to buy this certain quantity to get a discount. It's not what you don't like, it's what this person. Just imagine what they wouldn't like. All right, I'll give you another 10 seconds. We'll go to the next one. Just imagine. Imagine they're in a bad mood. What are they complaining about? All right? Question number 2. What are 5 things that they would love? Now, let me be clear before you write anything down. Don't tell me 5 things that they love. Tell me 5 things that they would love if you could do it, or deliver it, or provide it. Not what you do today. You know what I would love if they would do blank? They would always love better pricing. I would love it if I logged in on the website and immediately showed my last order and I could just click once and reorder it. I would love that. I would love if they would give me something new to offer my customers. I would love if they would provide all the point of purchase display materials. I would love if they would give me a script for my team to better upsell this. What do you think they'd love? I'd love it if a drone would take my order. right. 10 more seconds on this one. And you can even write things down that don't exist today. You could substitute the line, wouldn't it be cool if they could do blank? What would they love? All right, and you can keep working, in the interest of time. Here's the next thing. What are 5 things that they need for them to make a decision to buy from you? Maybe they need authorization. Maybe they need proof. Maybe they need an incentive, especially if we're converting from somebody else's client. What do they need? Maybe they need justification to switch. Sometimes our biggest challenge with prospects is prospects that are fine. We're fine. Yeah, but look, we have this great product. Yeah, but I'm fine. I've been doing this. Maybe they need a good excuse. Maybe they need 6 months. And of course, the idea is that if we're clear on what they need, the question is, do we have the ability to provide that? If that's what they need to make the decision, are we in alignment? All right? Here's the next one. What are 5 things that they fear? And this one I want you to really think about. Maybe they fear looking foolish within their organization. Maybe they just fear that they're going to buy from you and then realize a week later that they could have gotten a better price from somebody else. Maybe they fear that they're going to invest in something in technology and the new version is going to come out in 6 months and they bought too early. What do they fear? Maybe they fear they're going to be passed over for a promotion and they need a big win to look good to their boss. Maybe they fear something at home. These are real people, good people. And then here's the last one. You can see it on your page. Easy one. What are 5 other choices they have besides buying from you? You need to be clear of the competitive landscape. What are 5 other choices they have? And sometimes the easiest choice is not choosing anybody at all, right? Maybe the choice is we're going to put off this for a year. Starting to come together, starting to understand this person's life, the pressures that they're under. Now, we won't do it right now, but the idea is that you take profile number 2, and you don't have to come up with 5, but recognize that they are somebody different. And the idea with profile number 2, person number 2, is that you have to come up with 2 answers for each category that don't match person number 1. Because understand they're different. And you don't have to do it right now. Let's not do it right now. We'll go back to person number one. As you look at this, the learning, the benefit of this exercise is going deeper into your best customers. Understanding and comparing your current business model with the hopes and the desires and the fears and the needs of your best customer. And asking some real questions. The things that they dislike, are you guilty of some of those things? If you know, just through this exercise, and ideally you'll create 3 or 4 different profiles, and ask yourself the question, if they dislike A, B, and C, are we doing those things? Can we stop? I worked with an organization, we did a day-long session, and one of the things that they knew this person, this ideal person, disliked is salespeople, pushy salespeople. Well, we know we weren't going to send Rick because he's the guy that we know he would hate. So we sent, as part of this organization, they sent actually one of the engineers who helped develop the technology. He could have a conversation with the guy. He didn't feel like he was being sold to by a salesperson because we knew that wouldn't be connected. If you think about the things that they would love, can you identify, if you look at 5 things that you know that they would love, are there 1 or 2 of those things that maybe we could think about providing? Maybe it's technology or a service that we don't currently offer. What would it take to develop that internally? Are there people on our team that we could put on a team to say, can you develop this new product or service? Maybe we've been asked multiple times, it's just not what we do, but maybe we should. But we don't know until we ask that question. The things that they need, this is very important. If we know this ideal person, which could constitute a significant sale, a significant portion of our business, if these are the things that they need, what is our role in helping to provide it? Maybe they need authorization. Maybe they need measures of proof. Maybe they need case studies. Maybe they need better pricing on the front end. By asking these questions, we can help align our business model, modify our business model to better connect with what it is our core customers really, really want. Instead of that product-centric mentality, which is we're really good at this. We're innovating. We've got great products. Our goal is to sell this to as many people as possible. The customer-centric organization says we really know our customer. And we're going to deliver value from as many sources as we can over time, life cycle of that customer. That's where I think the real growth opportunities come. It's not in lieu of being product-centric. You have to be good at your product. But this is where the opportunity, because there's too many other organizations who aren't doing the hard work here. But they convince themselves because they're clear on the demographics that they're serving their customers. But their expertise is really in their products. The things that they fear most often can be alleviated through strong communication. You will lose customers because of irrational fears. I fear they're not going to be able to. My biggest challenge in my business as a professional speaker is people are looking to avoid making a bad decision. They will worry that I can deliver on a particular subject or an industry, and if they have any concerns, they're not going to take a chance. Think about a day like today. We bring 150 people in the room. We have 90 people. The biggest challenge was making sure that they weren't making a poor decision. Well, how do we alleviate those fears? In my industry, we alleviate those fears by having industry, here's all the people I've spoken to in this industry. Here's videos of me presenting so they have a chance to see. The fears that they have, in most cases for you, can be addressed with better communication. But if you know up front that this is what they're likely going to be concerned about, we can proactively communicate those things. It's the same thing in our marketing materials. If there's things that they're worried about making a poor decision, we address those things up front. We don't wait for them to ask. Because most of the fears are unfounded. But they're legitimate. If I got concerned, I'm just going to go to the safe choice. People will opt for a safe choice over one that carries risk. So anticipating this helps our communication strategy proactively. And then the 5 other choices, we just have to be cognizant, and I think you already are. Does that make sense? So here's what I want you to do, and then we're going to take another quick break. And this is the part that audiences hate, but I'm going to ask you to do it anyway. I want you to take that person number 1 and the sheet that you just filled out, and I want you to turn the person next to you, and I want you to introduce this person to them. I want you to take turns, and I want to say, I want to introduce you to Sanjay. Sanjay's 55 years old, and he's been working at this company for 20 years. He's recently divorced. He's got 3 kids. He went for his master's degree, but he quit early, and he's really frustrated with his job. He loves auto racing. That's his hobby. He watches it day and night. And then tell me what he doesn't like. Tell me what he would love. So let me tell you what Sanjay dislikes. He gets very frustrated with this. He doesn't like people who do this. He doesn't like the fact that he has to do this so he can do this. Here's what Sanjay would love. He would love if a company really understood and was able to do whatever. I want you to do it as a conversation. Spend 3 minutes each of you, and then we'll take a break after that. But I will dismiss you for the break. So please humor me, turn to somebody else, take turns, and introduce the person by name and describe them like this is a neighbor that you know really, really well. Okay? Go. Let me tell you about so-and-so. Okay. We'll bring everybody back. Yes, I'll make it clear. So let me ask you a question. Do you think you understand them a little bit better? Are they a little bit more real in your mind? And you knew nothing different than when you walked in here, but sometimes when we ask the questions about who they are, what do they really need? Sometimes we get caught up, especially the sales professionals and others, on price, and I'm frustrated, and we're getting beaten on price, and they go back to management, we got to do a better price, and they think that's the answer to everything, and the reality is, price is important, price is always important. But sometimes when we can understand them and who they are, and what they need and what they fear, because we do as well. We all have lives. One of the things that I try and do, because you see the guy on stage and I'm here and I'm teaching and I'm sharing, but those who follow me on social media and Facebook, they'll see that most of my posts have nothing to do with work. It has to do with my children and being a father and my adventures. Because what it does is it humanizes me. Business is kind of like high school. When given the choice, we do business with people we like and people we know and people we trust. And those people are real people. The people you do business with every day are real people. Now, I'm not telling you something you don't know, but if I can spur you to dig a little bit deeper, the residual benefit of this is what do we do with the information? And as we look clearly into our value proposition, our service offerings, our products available, our systems that we have in place, are they aligned with what our customers want? And in most cases, the answer is yes. In most cases, we do business the way we need to do business. But the opportunities for growth, the opportunities for retention are from the small things that we notice from doing a deeper dive, from pulling out that magnifying glass and looking at points of contact. So what I would encourage you to do back with the team is do profile number 2 as well. And with profile number 2, you'll see in the directions very clearly on the next page, is only asks you to come up with 2 answers of things that they dislike, things that they would love, things that they fear. 2 answers that don't replicate person number 1. Because remember, this person is either older or younger. It's the opposite gender. And then ask the same question. Is our current business model aligned with what they want? Can we find ways to create new initiatives to deliver things that they may be asking for? Can we stop doing or fix problems that we know are frustrating them? Because every one of those points of contact is an opportunity to either engender loyalty or to potentially lose a prospect. And it's that kind of deriving dollars from details that give you competitive advantage. If you walk out of here enlightened but don't do anything with it, then we're wasting our time and our money. The reason we brought leaders into this room is that you take this information, these exercises, and bring it back to the organization. So I want to go over with you really quickly, and then what we're going to do is we're going to take just a 10-minute break, but I want to be very, very clear. It is not lunchtime. That's at 2 o'clock. So they're very worried because I said there was going to be a break, and they're putting food out. Don't touch it. It's not lunchtime yet. So this is a chance to stretch your legs, walk around for a few minutes. I have some final things I want to share, and then we've got a little bit of time for Q&A. I know for some of those people who are watching virtually have some questions as well, but I promise we'll get you out of here at 2 or before 2 o'clock as scheduled. But in the meantime, so what I want you to do really quickly, because this is my gift to you as well, in the limited time that we have, I want you to pull out the workbook. Because part of my job, part of what Mubarak has asked me to do as well, and Tawfiq as well, is to help you go back and help your teams. Spark some interesting conversation among your teams that ultimately can change and enhance our behaviors. I'm not a motivational speaker. This is about business. This is about doing something different. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you my entire workbook. This is the work that I do when I consult with organizations, when I go and I lead some of these exercises and spark bigger discussions with Post-its, big flip charts on the wall, and we're writing things, and we've got ideas, but I'm going to let you do some of these conversations yourself. Of course, I'm always available if somebody wants to bring me in, but I'm going to take you through this real quick because there's just 5 simple exercises. And I'm going to tell you what to do, and for those who are watching as well, for you to facilitate and bring this in, and we can make this available for you to print this out for everybody on your team. The first one on page 1 is called Don't Stop Wooing Your Customers. And the whole idea is we do a lot of work on the front end when we get a new customer to romance that customer. We treat them like kings and queens. We want to impress them, but sometimes we get a little complacent. A year down the road, we've got a great relationship, they're buying from us, and we stop doing some of the things that we did at the beginning. It's not that we're trying, it's just working really well. We're delivering well for them, they're ordering from us, we're giving them new innovations, we have great conversations. But what we don't know is competitors who would love to take our longtime customers and turn them into their first-time customers. So they're going to do more than us. So exercise number 1 is about recognizing all the things that we do and deciding how much we need to keep doing. So if we identify specific behaviors, we can ask the question whether or not we're continuing to do those. Are we vulnerable? Exercise number 2 is on page 4. And this is what I talked about before about finding ways to say yes. As you work with your teams, ask them to literally look at every point of contact, every question that they've been asked in the past that they had to say no to or chose to say no to. Would you guys be able to do this? We don't do that. It's not necessarily saying no, we're not going to. Sometimes we just don't. That's not what we offer. Well, can I do this? Is there any way that I can get this split up and send part of it here, but can you delay the payment? Yeah, that's not our system. Have your team who deals with this every day identify every time that you say no or decline to be able to offer something or provide something or to accommodate. And with every one of those scenarios, you have to be able to put them in one of 3 categories, which is the one on page 6. Things we have to say no to, and sometimes we have to say no. Offer an alternative. Those things that we used to say no, can we give them? Well, let me tell you what I can do. Customers love that. And then the final one, is there a way to say yes? Can we find a way to say yes? And everything has to go in one of those 3 categories. Great exercise. Your team will actually have a good time with that. Exercise number 3, page 8. This is basically looking at any business. What frustrates you? This isn't even, excuse me, necessarily about your business. What do we all get frustrated at? I hate being put on hold. I hate being, whatever that might be, the things that make you frustrated. Have your team just brainstorm all the things that they don't like about doing business with other businesses. Identify which of those things you might be guilty of as well, and what might an alternative be? If we know this is frustrating, is there an alternative? And then finally, at the bottom of page 9, what would it take for us to fix that? There has to be a plan behind it. If we can identify a point that we know is frustrating to customers, what would it take for us to do it differently? And it puts their brain power to work on that. Number 11. This is about transparency. This is about what happens when things don't go well. Nothing should happen for the first time without at least some sense of how we're going to handle it. And a lot of things can go poorly. A shipment doesn't arrive. Something is damaged. What about an employee that gets arrested? All of these crazy scenarios that might happen in your business. What happens if a food item gets contaminated? What happens if a physical structure fails? Do we have a consensus of how we will handle that scenario? And the exercise is come up with every crazy idea of something that could go wrong, because some of them actually could go wrong. And decide ahead of time how we're going to handle that. What's the best response? So you're not thinking about it for the first time. Some of those scenarios just might be somebody is late with a payment. How are we going to handle it? So that people aren't doing it on their own. And then the last one is the one that you already did, day in the life of the customer. So take this with you. The directions of how to facilitate each exercise is actually included right up front. And of course, if you want help facilitating it, feel free to reach out. But this is my gift. Take this back to your organization. Great conversations. The other thing among your teams, and the HR people, and Mubarak and his team understand this, your people love to be involved. When they're involved in the process, they are committed to the result because it wasn't decided without them and told to them. Involve them. You'll be really impressed with the inclusive nature, and people sometimes who haven't been asked their opinion or for their input are going to really shine when they're able to do so. You're going to get a lot of information and ideas and creativity when we spark some of these conversations as part of it.